Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez. The resolution called for an inquiry in aid of legislation on the alleged grossly disadvantageous contract entered into by the Bureau of Corrections and the Tagum Agricultural Development Company Incorporated, also known as Tadeco. The mandate of the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability is to find out whether or not the execution and implementation of the subject joint venture agreement and its amendments were in accordance with existing laws, rules, and regulations, and that it did not work to the disadvantage of the government. Otherwise, the committee will determine whether or not government officials and employees tasked to implement the law and protect the interests of the government committed malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance in the performance of their duties. During the initial deliberation held on May 9, 2017, the Joint Committee members raised several violations of laws, rules, and regulations that can serve as basis to review the joint venture agreement between BuCor and Tadeco to best protect the interests of the government and people adversely affected thereto. Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre informed us that the Department of Justice has created a fact-finding committee to conduct an investigation on the alleged illegality of the joint venture agreement between BuCor and Tadeco involving a portion of land in the Davao Prison and Penal Farm, also known as DFPPF Davao Penal Colony. They have committed to submit the final report, and joint committee will consider it in the drafting of our committee report. Secretary Aguirre said that they have adopted the following recommendations of the fact-finding committee. 1. Revocation or rescission of the contract by the President. 2. DOJ also to instruct BuCor to file the appropriate action in court for the declaration of nullity of the joint venture agreement. And 3. Proclamation be issued by the President of the Philippines reclassifying the Davao Prison and Penal Farm as alienable and disposable. However, Secretary Aguirre stated that only BuCor may initiate the nullification case, being the contracting party to the joint venture agreement. The joint committee gave Tadeco the opportunity to address issues raised by our members and to provide the committee with documents to support their position. To assist the joint committee with information relevant to the inquiry, we have invited the Solicitor General, chairpersons from the Commission on Audit and Securities and Exchange Commission, resource persons from DNR, local officials of Davao del Norte, and other stakeholders to shed light on issues submitted to the jurisdiction of the Joint Committee. May I now give the floor to Chairman Ray Umali, the Chairman of the Committee on Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. As I mentioned in the past hearing, this is a joint committee, yes, but we follow the lead of the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability because our principal or primary concern is more on the correctional aspect of of the issues being heard in today's hearing. In particular, because this involves the Davao Penal Colony and the farms therein that are that have revenue generating capacities, and one of the things that in the investigation or inquiry on the National Bilibid Prison drug trade, we have made many recommendations, among which is the full implementation of the BuCor Modernization Act passed in year 2013 but has remained unimplemented, and one of the principal reasons for this is the lack of funds. I think just to transfer the Bilibid prison to another place would entail huge amount, billions. And we see this as an opportunity for the Department of Justice to look at revenue-generating mechanisms by which we can finance the needs of the National Penitentiary as well as the all other jails in the country in order to decongest the new Bilibid prison and such other facilities, penal facilities that we have. And so we see this as some important mechanism by which we can generate revenues for use of government in the improvement of our correctional facilities. And so we would like to pursue, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, this tact in pursuing this investigation. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you, Chairman Umali. Before we proceed with the deliberation of the House resolution, may I acknowledge the presence of the following members of the House of Representatives: Representative Rosemary Arinas, Representative Pablo Ortega, Deputy Minority Leader Eugene Michael De Vera, Representative Carlito Marquez, the Vice Chairman for the Committee on Good Government. For today's hearing, we have invited a total of 43 resource persons, and may I request the resource persons to acknowledge if your name is mentioned. Chairman Michael Aguinaldo of COA, Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre, Department of Justice, Chairperson Teresita Herbosa. She is present, but she's in the other conference room attending another hearing. But she is represented by Attorney Gilbert Medrano, Solicitor General Jose Calida, or any representative.
I represent the OSG, Your Honor.
Can you please state your name and your position?
I am State Solicitor Gilbert U. Medrano, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. CEC Ricardo V. Paras III, Chairman, DOJ Investigating Panel. Director Maria Charina Benadipo, Vice Chairman, DOJ Investigating Panel. State Counsel Precious Pohas, present. State Counsel Melvin Suarez, present. State Counsel Noel Adriatico. Attorney Catherine Maralit. Attorney Benjamin De Los Santos. Gerardo Padilla, Acting Superintendent. Mr. Ramon Liwag, the former DOJ Undersecretary. Mr. Anthony Alexander Valoria, President, CEO, Tadeco, present. Mr. Oscar Grappa, Chief Finance Officer, Tadeco, present. Mr. Anthony Sasin, present. Ms. Maria Teresa Florendo, Anflocor, present. Ms. Maria Linda Lagdemeo, present. Ms. Maria Cristina Brias, present. Mr. Ricardo Florendo, present. Mr. Vicente Florendo, present. Ms. Emilita Aguirre of Tadeco, present. Ms. Elsa Gutierrez of the Davao Settlers Association Incorporated. Mr. Lorenzo Estrella. Ms. Martina Flor de Ramos, Municipal Treasurer, Municipality of Tagum. Mr. Freddy Zapata, OIC Municipal Assessor, present. Mr. Kirk Samiliano, City Treasurer, Panabo City, present. Ms. Nancy Liana, City Assessor, present. Engineer Luisito Gacasan, DNR Regional Office, present. Attorney Felix Alicer, DNR Regional Office, present. Mr. Bernardino Huson, Senro, present. Ms. Ruth Tawan-Tawan, Regional Director, DNR Regional Office. Attorney John Paul de Villeres, Register of Deeds. Mr. Rani Losada, Municipal Treasurer. Engineer Lina Flores, Municipal Assessor. Ms. Joyce Gualberto, Provincial Assessor, Davao del Norte. Engineer Glenn Enro, Municipal Assessor, Municipality of Carmen. Ms. Maria Luisa Liana, Municipal Treasurer, Municipality of Carmen. Engineer Teresa Bretana, DNR Regional Office 11. Attorney Hype Lupos Jr., the Legal Counsel of Davao Carmen, the Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries in his association. Attorney Lopos, I understand that they are here. Attorney Lopos or the members of the ARB? Mr. May I request the resource persons to please take the front seats, especially those who have anything to state, or if we have any position papers that you would like to read, please take the front seat. Mr. Antonio Solapas, Chairman, Daktarba. Mr. Alberto Bojas, Chairman, Tabarba. Mr. Nestor Sumbilon, Representative, Daktarba. And we have additional resource persons, Mr. Jim Sampulna, Regional Director. And the Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Corrections, Benjamin de los Santos. Okay. Under Section 9, Rights and Duties of Witnesses, witnesses shall testify under oath to be administered by the chairperson or by any other person authorized by law. So my request, all the resource persons to please rise for you to be administered by oath. May I acknowledge the presence of Speaker and Pantaleon Alvarez.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this joint congressional meeting? Thank you. You may sit down.
Mr. Chair, the other
Yes.
members, the other resource persons who did not take their oath would be testifying under the original oath which they have taken during
Yes,
the
noted.
previous hearing.
Noted. The first order of business would be I understand that the regional office of DNR would like to make a presentation. Do you have any presentation to make so that we could see the actual area of the subject matter?
Ms. Ruth Tawan-Tawan.
Ms. Ruth Tawan-Tawan. I'd like to acknowledge Deputy Minority Leader Alfredo Garbin, Deputy Minority Leader Anthony Bravo, Representative Leo Cueva,
And I Vice Chairman Bordado.
and of course our Vice Chairman, Representative Gabriel Bordado, Representative Divina Yu,
And Quaresma.
and Representative Quaresma. Ready na po ba yung presentation ng DNR?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please proceed.
Good morning. Allow us to present the history in summary of Presidential Proclamation Number 414 of 1931. Next. The total area based on the proclamation is 28,816 hectares. But upon plotting based on the technical descriptions of the presidential proclamation, the total area is 30,907 hectares. It's in the map. And then there were series of presidential proclamations ceding portions of the 30,000 hectares. One is Proclamation 103, excluding 103, where is it? An area of 10,000 hectares for NAFCO and Abaca and other fibers corporation. That's NAFCO. On April 30, 1949, Proclamation number 127 was also issued by President Quirino. And on 1950, Executive Order number 372 was also issued, ceding 2,500 hectares. And on November 27, another 2,005 hectares was also ceded. On August of 1955, there was this Kapalong Public Land Subdivision, or PLS 70, which was approved in 1956, disposing portion of the area of A and D, and was given to NARA for settlement occupations. On September 3, 1956, President Magsaysay also issued number 341. Or ito na lang siguro. Yes, yes. If I have to summarize Presidential Proclamation number 127, the area was actually given was 10,136. And then another Presidential Proclamation that was ceded is 2,139 hectares. And this is followed by, what's next? There were a series of proclamations actually. We will just show it, what remains of the total area for the Bureau of Corrections. That portion shaded in orange is actually given for the administration of the ENR. Next, please. Next. And that portion of brown colored is given to DAR. Next. That portion is given to PADCO and NAFCO. Next, please. That pink-colored is given to the administration of the ENR because that is portion of the timberland area. Next. And the orange-colored, this is what remains of the area of Bureau of Corrections with a total area of 8,948 hectares. That is, the green-colored is the JVA, the Joint Venture Agreement area between Tadeco and the Bureau of Corrections, which has a total area of, on our records, is 5,348.79 hectares. Next. That portion on the uppermost colored green is dark green is timberland portion, and it has a total area of 4,839 hectares. Actually, the 1,149 hectares of the timberland portion was ceded to the Bureau of Corrections, and the other portion, the 1,830 hectares, by virtue of Presidential Decree 132. And the other portion, the remaining 1,675, was also ceded to the Department of Agrarian Reform. Next. The 98 hectares, Your Honors, is the actual compound of Dapicol, which is right inside at the center of the GVA area. This is the actual compound of the Dapicol. That's all, Your Honors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions from the members of the committee with regards to the presentation? If there are none, during the last hearing, there were some resource persons that were not given time to state their position because of time constraints. So we will give them priority. So may I now call on Attorney Lopez to state your position, or if you want to make a statement with regards to the subject matter. You're representing a group called, you can explain to this committee.
Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, Chairman. I'm actually the legal counsel of the Davao Carmen Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries Association Incorporated, or DACTARBAY. We have here the Chairman, Antonio J. Sulapas, and also of Tibarbay, Tibalog Banagulan Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries Association Incorporated, represented by Chairman Buhas. Your Honors, please, since 2016, we actually filed a petition in behalf of the Davao Carmen Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries Association Incorporated DACTARBAY, before the Department of Justice, which is actually a petition to place certain portions of the land holdings under the Bureau of Corrections, that it be transferred to the Department of Agrarian Reform so that the land holdings will be placed under the CARP coverage and will be subsequently distributed to the qualified agrarian reform beneficiaries. We filed the petition before the DOJ sometime on October 21, 2016. Based on our petition, we actually learned of the joint venture agreement between the Bureau of Corrections and Tadeco. And it appears that that joint venture agreement covers 5,300 hectares of lands belonging to DAPICOL, now under the Davao Prison and Penal Farm. To be exact, it's 5,308.36 hectares of lands, based on a GBA for a period of 25 years. However, based on the research conducted by Dr. Bai, we were able to secure a base map of the Davao Prison and Penal Farm from the Land Management Services of DNR Regional Office 11, Davao City. If it may be recalled, Your Honors, that years back, the Committee on Agrarian Reform of this Honorable House actually conducted an initial investigation on this matter on joint venture. And one of the recommendations made was to create an interagency task force between DAR, DNR, and one of the results of that recommendation was to conduct a survey on the lands involved in the joint venture agreement. However, Your Honors, we found out, based on the base map of the Davao Prison and Penal Farm, that aside from the 5,308 hectares covered under the joint venture agreement, there is actually a remaining portion of 5,882.8984 hectares of land holdings of the Davao Prison and Penal Farm, which were not made subject to any joint venture agreement between the Bureau of Corrections, Tadeco, or any third parties. And we have actually secured the explanation of the Land Management Services up to as to this. They validated that there is this 5,882, but they still have to ascertain and identify the exact location of this 5,882. The LMS said that they were just tasked to actually survey the 5,308 hectares under the joint venture. But they claim, based on their base map, that there is another 5,882.89. So, on our petition, Your Honor, in behalf of those seeking to become agrarian reform beneficiaries, who are actually landless residents of Santo Tomas and Carmen, Davao del Norte, as well as landless residents of Panabo City, or they were former farm workers or plantation workers of Tadeco in these particular land holdings under the GBA. So in our petition, we requested the DOJ, if it is possible, that knowing that the joint venture agreement has already, based on the recommendation, has already been recommended to be considered as null and void, we actually requested that if the Department of Justice can actually make recommendations to the Honorable President of the Philippines to transfer the 5,308 hectares to the Department of Agrarian Reform in order that these land holdings will be covered under CARP. We just heard, Your Honor, the presentation that more than 1,000 hectares had already been transferred by the Bureau of Corrections to the Department of Agrarian Reform for CARP coverage. And in fact, as based on our records, there are around 400 hectares which were already covered under Certificates and Land Ownership Award, meaning these were former land holdings of Bureau of Corrections, but these were voluntarily transferred to DAR, and by DAR, the land holdings were covered under CARP and distributed to agrarian reform beneficiaries. Therefore, it is not the first time if these 5,308 hectares will be transferred by DOJ to DAR. It is not the first time for the government to actually distribute these lands. Now, what will be our basis? Our basis is Executive Order number 448, amending Executive Order number 407, series of 1990, which states, particularly Section 1-A, all lands or portions thereof reserved by virtue of presidential proclamations for specific public uses by the government, its agencies and instrumentalities, including government-owned and controlled corporations, suitable for agriculture, and no longer actually, directly, and exclusively used or necessary for the purposes for which they have been reserved, as determined by the Department of Agrarian Reform in coordination with the government agency or instrumentality concerned, in whose favor the reservation was established, shall be segregated from the reservation and transferred to the Department of Agrarian Reform for distribution to qualified beneficiaries under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program. In the case of the 5,308 hectares and the GBA, it is clear that the Bureau of Corrections do not actually directly or exclusively use the same land holdings for which it has been reserved. Otherwise, it could not have turned over these land holdings for the use of Tadeco. If you check, Your Honor, Your Honors, the joint venture agreement, one of the whereas clauses is that the land holdings subject of GBA were torn over by the Bureau of Corrections to Tadeco. Now, aside from that, Your Honor, the 5,308 hectares, we request that if it is possible that the 5,882.84 hectares of lands not subject to GBA must be ascertained. Because we believe, Your Honor, that these land holdings are used by third parties, used by third persons, not in agreement with the Bureau of Corrections, meaning it is no longer exclusively or directly used by Bureau of Corrections, then the same should be subjected to CARP through the transfer of the land holdings from Bureau of Corrections to the DAR, just like what they did with the more than 1,000 hectares, Your Honor. So we are actually requesting, Your Honor, if it is possible that the Honorable Committee will consider that we know that the subject of this hearing is the GBA, and under which is the 5,308 hectares land holdings, but we are very afraid that if there's really a 5,882 hectares and third persons and third parties are using the same for free without even the supervision of the Bureau of Corrections, we hope that there will be an investigation. Otherwise, the government has always been in the losing end in these 5,882 hectares, having received no whatsoever rental or compensation. Finally, Your Honor, we would just like to check as to the GBA. We believe and we actually support the recommendation of the Department of Justice and the COA that it is really a lease agreement, not a joint venture agreement. Why? Because the Bureau of Corrections had been treating this as a rental, not a joint venture. We can see this, Your Honor, on the official website of the Bureau of Corrections. In the official website of the Bureau of Corrections from 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, you can see there, Your Honor, that the payments made by BuCor-Tadeco is actually indicated as rental payments, aside from the profit share. Therefore, from the viewpoint of Bureau of Corrections, this is really a rental, not a joint venture. That will be all, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Lopez. Point of clarification lang. Your petition is for the 5,882 hectares, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
This is different from the 5,308 hectares that is being the subject matter of this hearing.
Yes, Your Honor, based on the base map of the Land Management Services, Your Honor.
Okay, so that we will be enlightened, may we request the Register of Deeds or the DNR to clarify who owns this 5,800 hectare, 5,882 hectares at the moment?
Yeah, Your Honor, based on our records and on the survey conducted, the remaining area of BuCor not ceded is actually 3,603.5931 hectares and not 5,000, Your Honor.
Tony Lopez, what can you say about that? There seems to be a discrepancy. Your position is that 5,882 hectares, but according to DNR, 3,603 hectares lang. So may almost 2,000 discrepancy sa position.
Yes, Your Honor,
ninyo.
but we actually have the base map also, Your Honor, a certified true copy of the base map from the Land Management Services. Either 5,000 or 3,000, Your Honor, still, that only presupposes, Your Honor, that indeed there are thousands of hectares, 3,000 or 5,000, Your Honor, because we are basing on the base map by the Land Management Services, which are not subject of GBA, but we really do not know if the Bureau of Corrections entered into any other agreement with any other corporation or company, or they just allow these land holdings to be used by third persons without benefit of payment in favor of government, Your Honor.
Okay, going back to my earlier question, this is addressed to DNR. So who owns the 3,603 hectares? Is it BuCor?
To our understanding, Your Honor, this is under the administration of the Bureau of Corrections. These are areas not ceded to different entities, Your Honor, by virtue of the proclamations. Ito na lang po yung naiwan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the members? Because if there are none, we will proceed to the other resource person who was not given time during the last hearing.
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Chairman Umali.
Yeah, perhaps we should ask BuCor to clarify on this matter. This unaccounted 3,000 plus hectares, can you please educate this committee? Where are these areas and who are actually occupying and or using this, and whether or not BuCor is generating revenues therefrom?
Good morning, Your Honor. Your Honors, please, prescinding from the reserved portion by virtue of Proclamation Number 414, and the following proclamations awarding certain portions of the original land to different persons and entities to include informal settlers, the remaining 3,000 remain under the effective control and supervision of DAPICOL, and following the provisions of RA 10575, Modernization Law of 2013, these lands has been reserved for development, utilization for profit or otherwise by the DAPICOL. And part of our plans for under the modernization law, Your Honors, is to build additional facilities to decongest the population of PDLs, not only in DAPICOL but nationwide. This is part of our regional facility program, which we are undertaking as part of our buildings and land use development program.
But what is the actual use now of this area? This is sizable. This is more than 3,000, 3,600. Or probably if Attorney Lopa and DNR can sit down and discuss this, they can probably arrive at a more accurate figure. But what is the actual use now?
Right now, Your Honor, the unoccupied, by unoccupied I mean no buildings or structures are erected. These are used for small-scale vegetable farmings, and Your Honors may be well informed that some, we call them informal settlers, but these are, to us, squatters, who have formed into different associations claiming their right to have lands. And it happens every time there's a new administration, Your Honor. They would be activated and claiming rights over portions of the DAPICOL area, Your Honor.
BuCor is not deriving any income from these areas.
Monetarily none, but benefit for in terms of vegetables and small-scale farming, sorghum, which we can use in our self-administration, partial self-administration for our food for the PDLs, Your Honor.
But this is 3,600 hectares of vegetable.
Not entirely, Your Honor, but again, the main reason, Your Honor, is for our plans and programs for building and land utilization, Your Honor.
Thank you, Benji. But DNR may, and probably the municipal government, will you please provide us data and or information of actual use and actual occupants of this area being discussed for the benefit of the members of this committee? Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman, Speaker Alvarez.
Director, ano?
Superintendent De Los Santos.
Superintendent De Los Santos, are you sure of what you're saying? That the 3,000 plus hectares right now are devoted to vegetable crops?
I was saying earlier, Your Honor, that it's not totally being devoted to...
More or less, how many hectares? Yung tinaniman ng gulay?
I'd like to refer to the superintendent of DAPICOL, Your Honor.
Sa facility na natin, sir, yung 3,000 na yun, occupied by mga...
Already?
Yes.
Per Superintendent Padilla, Your Honor, of DAPICOL, the remaining free portion of 3,000 plus,
Yes.
while they may be planted with some small crops, these are occupied already by different claimants, Your Honor. So,
Since when?
marami pong associations, Your Honor, na
Hindi.
nakiklaim.
Kailan? Pwedeng ikaw sumagot? Ikaw yung nasa DAPICOL?
Opo.
Superintendent Padilla?
Good morning, Your Honors. The remaining area po na nakapaloob po sa joint venture yung
Hindi, yung 3,000.
yung
Yun ang
3,000
sagutin
po
mo.
na actually we are not aware of that 3,000, Your Honor. Ang DNR
Teka.
has the,
Ilang taon ka na dyan?
I assume as acting superintendent since 2014 lang po.
Pero doon sa Dapicol, ilang taon ka na?
34 years na po.
34 years?
Yes, sir.
Hindi mo alam kung alin yung lupa ng Dapicol?
Alam ko po,
Anong ginagawa nyo doon?
yung 3,000 po, hindi po namin ma-account yan. Kasi ang what is remaining area left is that 5,308 hectares lang po na nakapaloob sa GBA. Then yung facilities namin na nasa 100 plus hectares lang po.
Ang sinasabi nga, maliban sa 5,000 plus hectares, meron pang sobrang 3,000 plus na pag-aari ng Dapicol. Ngayon, kung nandoon ka at hindi nyo alam kung ano yung pag-aari ninyo, malaki ang problema mo.
Ang pagkakaalam ko po, yung sinasabing 3,000 hectares, somewhere in upper part of Santo Tomas, meron po. Pero occupied po by different claimants. Nasa record po yan ng DNR.
Kung tama yung sinasabi mo, ba't nyo pinayagan yan? Ha?
Yan na po ang...
That is under your jurisdiction. You
Yes,
should have
sir,
protected the lands of the government.
Yes, sir. Pero... ang DNR po ang nakakaalam po dyan kung...
hindi nyo na inaalam kung alin yung sa inyo, alin yung hindi.
Hindi, yung...
Ganun ba yun?
No, Your Honor. Ang...
hindi mo alam eh. Anong explanation doon?
Nung...
Talagang pinikit mo na lang yung mata mo? Ha? Malinaw yung pag-aari ng gobyerno. That is 3,000 hectares mahigit. Basta wala kayong ginawa. Nawala yun sa gobyerno. You can be charged administratively.
Wala pong actual survey po na ginawa talaga.
May survey na nga. May mapping. Lahat na alam, ikaw na lang ang hindi. Pati nga yung abogado, hindi tiga BuCor. Alam niya yung pag-aari ng gobyerno. Kayo, doon kayo, nagtatrabaho kayo doon, empleyado kayo ng gobyerno, 34 years, hindi mo alam kung hanggang saan yung boundaries ng Davao Penal Colony.
Alam ko po, Your Honor. Hanggang up to Mamakaw area, Gabuyan area, but it was ceded to different claimants as mentioned by DNR.
Sinasabi mo ngayon, ceded. Yung hindi ceded, yung pinag-uusapan natin dito.
Yun na lang po, Your Honors. Yung what is left now is the GBA and yung actual po. GBA and
yun lang alam mo. Wala ka na alam na 3,000 mahigit.
Hindi ko po alam kung saan banda yung area na 3,000.
Okay. Ngayon, anong gagawin mo? Dahil sinasabi nila meron.
Hindi ko po alam kung saan yung area yan.
Kaya nga, anong gagawin mo? Basta sabihin mo, hindi mo alam. What is now your obligation as an employee of BuCor? Kailan ka mag-retire? Kailan ka mag-retire?
Your Honor, pag na-approve po yung aming IRR, may option.
Ilang taon ka na ngayon? How old are you?
57 po.
Ha?
57.
57. 3 more years. Hanapin mo yung property na yan at alamin mo. Dahil tungkulin mo yan.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact,
you coordinate with DNR.
may request na po kami sa DNR to conduct yung remaining portion pa ng land holdings po ng Dapicol Phase 1 po namin is itong GBA.
Teka, kaninong empleyado ka? Dapicol o Tadeco?
BuCor po.
BuCor, sigurado ka ha?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, buti malinaw.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Your Honor, please. Last week, we sat down with DNR, DOJ, and BuCor, Your Honor, and we discussed the actual plotting of existing facilities to include those that were previously given to different entities, Your Honor. And our agreement then was that we will be plotting depending on the indicated areas given to various entities and some informal settlers before we could even proceed to titling. Unfortunately, Your Honor, the area originally reserved as penal colony is not fenced. It has no official survey nor title, and we are in the process of working on the titling, Your Honor.
Are you a lawyer?
Yes, Your Honor.
Paano titutuluhan yung public land?
Yun na nga po ang pinag-usapan namin doon sa conference namin. We plot, define areas that are really open still, those that are given to other entities and associations, Your Honor.
Yung proseso,
Part of our mandate under the modernization law is for the building of lands, utilization, and mapping to include survey. And frankly, Your Honor, all BuCor lands are not titled because, as you said, it's still part of government reservation.
yes, and it is only Congress that can declare it alienable and disposable.
We agree, Your Honor.
Before we proceed, may I acknowledge the presence of the members, Representative Robert Ace Barbers, Representative Emmanuel Billones, Representative Jose Panganiban, Representative Napoleon D., Representative Carlos Isagani Sarate, Representative Leopoldo Batawil, Deputy Majority Leader Aurelio Gonzales, Representative Ruel Peter Gonzaga. May I also request Tony Lopez to please submit your position paper to the committee secretary. Meron po tayong isang resource person na hindi nakasalita during the last hearing, and she came all the way from Davao. She has been here for already more than 10 days. So bibigyan po natin siya ng pagkakataon makasalita.
Before that, Mr. Chair, just a follow-through.
Yes, Chairman Umali.
Doon po sa ginagawa ninyo, BuCor, Dapicol at saka DNR, pwede bang pakilagay nyo doon actual, kasi survey nyo yan, yung actual use at saka yung entity that is utilizing it. For example, yung Abaca, kasi ewan ko kung nandiyan pa yan, kasi di ba sinegregate yan from the total proclamation. Is it still being used for Abaca plantation o wala na? Sino na, ano na ngayon ang gamit niyan at sino ang nagbubungkal niyan ngayon at nag-ooperate niyan. So pakisama dun sa report na isasubmit nyo sa amin yung totality of actual use and actual occupants, whether owned by them or under some kind of an agreement. Please specify in the report to be submitted also, if I may request, Mr. Chair, to this joint committee.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please submit
Actually-
the necessary documents that has been requested.
Actually, Your Honor, the presentation made by DNR now, today, is the result of our joint conference. And from there, we can proceed to identify all these people, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman, before I forget, Mr. Valoria, in the last committee hearing, you said that you are farming something like 9,000 hectares in that area, and you promised to provide this committee copies of the ownership, detailed ownership of the more or less 4,000 hectares of land. Are you ready to submit it to the committee?
Good morning, Your Honor. Yes, it has been submitted, Your Honor.
Thank you, thank you.
Anyway, for the
You're welcome,
information of everyone, submitted documents as of May 30, 2016, DOJ position paper, BuCor's position paper, Tadeco's position paper, DNR Region 11 on the area utilized by Tadeco, and documents for Tadeco regarding GIS financial statement and other documents that we requested during the last hearing. Kung wala na po tayong tanong, pakinggan po natin kung meron po siyang sasabihin si Miss Elsa Gutierrez ng Davao Settlers Association. Pakisabi na lang po ano yung asosasyon ninyo, ano po ang posisyon ninyo.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Ako po si Mrs. Elsa Gutierrez, ang representative ng dalawang association, Davao Settlers Association at Dasay at saka ang Small Settlers Landless Association. Gusto ko po ipaalam sa lahat ang status ng Davao Penal Colony noon. Since the year 1940 up to the year 1950, hindi po bilanggo ang nag-develop ng Davao Penal Colony. So in the year 1969, yung area po, saan po kami naglinis, nag-develop, yun ang unang binigay ng Department of Justice, BuCor sa ngayon, at saka DAPICOL. So, signed by Senator Juan Ponce Enrile. Ang sabi po doon sa kontrata, that was 3,000 hectares. So, we were relocated in the adjacent area. So, nung nirelocate na po kami, nag-file na po kami ng petition kay Presidente Marcos. So, nirelocate kami noong year 1970. So, in-eject kami ng year 1973 to 1975. Kasi po, may expansion ng time na yan ang Tadeco. So, nag-file po kami ng petition kasi nakikita namin sa mga kasama namin doon, na tulad ng Caredo, ang Tadeco, binigyan sila ng lupa ng ating gobyerno, ng Department of Justice. So, nag-file kami ng petition kay Presidente Marcos, matagal yun, pero tumugon rin. Si Presidente Marcos nag-issue ng Letter of Instruction number 1258. At ang sabi po dito, review ang lahat na reservation. So, ang resulta doon, matagal din. Kasi ang nagiging Minister ng Natural Resources ay ang aming dating gobernador si Kagalang-galang Rodolfo del Rosario. Nung umupo si Presidente Aquino, yung nag-create ng committee. At ang findings ng komite, na ibalik kami doon sa area, asan kami nandoon. So, mayroon po kaming mapa shaded na yung area namin, lahat-lahat doon sa Dapicol. So, yung komite ng Region 11, sinubmit doon sa national level. At nung year February 27, 1990, si Undersecretary for Field Operation, si Victor Ramos, nag-issue ng for segregation na ibigay sa amin. So, ang problema, hindi maibigay kasi may GVA. So, kahit former Secretary, Senator Miriam Defensor, kahit naangdar, ang lahat na recommendation, ibigay sa amin. Imagine, for 19 years plus pag-relocate sa amin, kami po ang naglinis, hindi naman po bilanggo. Magpugahan ang mga bilanggo kung sila magputol ng kahoy. At sa nang ibigay po sa Tadeco, malinis na yung area. Yun ang katotohanan. Then, walang nangyari dito. So, patuloy po ang petisyon namin, lalo na noong 1986, 86 ba? Nung si Presidente, former President Cory Aquino, nag-issue ng Republic Act 6657. So maliwanag sa sinasabi po doon, at saka sa review ng LOI 1258, maliwanag na hindi actually directly exclusive use. So yun din. Kaya po, ang problema, sabi po ni Congressman Del Rosario, tulong ako sa inyo, pero respetuhin yung kontrata. Tama po din yun. So, may sulat. Sinulatan po ako ni Sumulat po si Atty. Roberto Sanggalan, siya ang legal officer 4 ng BuCor. At ang sabi po dito, hintayin na lang namin na ma-expire ang GVA. Naghintay nga. So, noong 2003, siyempre malapit ng 2004, pumunta ako sa BuCor. Doon sa DOJ. Yun pala, nirenew na ng 2003. So, ang pumirma doon, ang pumirma dito, kasi ito si former Undersecretary Liwag. Dati na to, panahon pa siya ni Presidente Marcos. So, siya ang tagapigil, alam ko yan. O ngayon, mayroon na pala, in-extend na, renew na ng 2003. So, wala kami magagawa. Pero, panay ang namin, petisyon. So, mayroon po, ang ginawa namin, kasi may hinahawakan, pumunta po kami sa Congress. Lumapit po ako kay ngayon Secretary Mariano. So hanggang sa ayan, may ginawa na survey. Ang resulta ito na lang, diretso-diretso na. So makikita po ninyo, pirmado po dito si Gerardo Padilla. Kayo po, tayo ang pumirma nito. So dito, ito po, survey. At ang masakit nito, 2 milyon lang ang binayaran namin. Kasi ang DAPICOL o ang DOJ, wala silang technical description kung ilan. Sabi na lang nila, 2002, nung i-renew, nagiging 2003. So ito makikita yung katotohanan. So under GVE 1, kasi itong GVE 1, ito po under Proclamation 341. Ito formerly Proclamation 103, inamen ng Proclamation 127, inamen ng Proclamation 132, at sa ngayon 341. At ang sinasabi doon, na ibalik ito sa Bureau of Lands. So makikita ng GVE 1, may area po siya na net na to ha. Kasi ang ginawa nito, ilan hektarya ba yung GVA? Tinaniman ng saging. So dito, tinaniman ng saging under Proclamation 341 na hindi naman sa kanila. Yun ang problema ng DOJ noon. BuCor at saka DAPICOL. So ang area ng 414. At dito sa area GVA 2, mayroon po silang 5,006.4314 hektarya. So ito ang lupa. Ito yung saging. Tinanaman, ito yung joint venture. So pag i-plus mo yung GVA, 5,000.6, 006.4314 plus yung 414, lumampas na yun sa kontrata. Yan. So, noong nagka-conference kami sa Davao, Opo, so hiniling ko po na sana, at saka may isa pa, mayroon pa inisyo na deed of transfer, sinurrender ang BuCor na 650 hectares. At ang sabi po ng Ardo, binigay na. Sino binigyan? Kasi itong deed of transfer, under ito ng Executive Order 407, propiedad ng gobyerno, hindi yung 341, kasi hindi na yun sa kanila. Okay, so, hiniling ko po na kawawa naman kami, mabuti pa magtrabaho, May isiis ka pa, may sahod ka pa, may pag-ibig ka pa, pag umalis ka, may length of service. Kami wala. So, hiniling ko po na kahit na ito na lang 650, kasi sinurinder ito. Nagtataka ako, bakit? Ba't hindi ito ginalaw ng DAR? At saka itong 414, hindi rin ginalaw. At bakit? Paano ibigay? May GBA. So, kung wala na itong GBA, siguro maligayang araw. Yan. Marami, lahat ng mga recommendation ng DAR, kahit na buhay pa yun si former Senador Miriam Defensor, gusto niya na ibigay. Kasi maliwanag na hindi actually directly exclusively use. At alam naman namin, at nung i-eject kami sa area, nagtrabaho ang Dasay Aslay sa Dapicol. Sa Dapicol, no, sa Tadeco. Yung area namin, doon, kasi noon, ang Davao Penal Colony, by project yan, ng tinaniman saging. So, Project A, Project B, Project C, Project D. Pero ngayon, hindi na. Saka, sa tingin ko lang, in my own opinion, bakit hindi makagalaw itong DAR o DNR? At saka imagine sa lahat ng mga sulat, ang ayaw yung DOJ. Ang ayaw talaga DOJ. Kasi dito sa page 4 ng GVA, may honoraria. Ito, kahit alam na nila na ito ay illegal, ay yung honoraria. Kasi kung totoo, na tawag nito, may warden sa bilanggo, di dapat ganun. At saka, alam naman natin yan. Mamaya, sige, okay. So, ayan. So, mayroon din kami na presentation kasi ang sulat sa amin, yung comparative ng GVA at saka yung binigyan ng lupa tulad sa amin. Okay. So, yan. Harang talaga to. At saka, kung maibigay man dito sa mga tuwang-tuwa rin mga trabahante dito, ang mabigyan. So, yan lang po kasi may mga kasama pa ako na gustong magsalita. Okay.
Pwede pong pakibigay yung position paper nyo sa committee secretary.
Opo.
Are there any members who would like to interpellate the resource person, Ms. Elsa Gutierrez? If there are none, we will proceed to other resource persons. We have invited the COA and is represented by the chairman himself. May I know the position of COA regarding the subject matter, or do you have any statement to make?
Good morning, Your Honor. If I may I turn it over to the supervising auditor of BuCor so she can explain what steps have already been taken.
Of course, she's recognized.
Attorney Marlene Balbin, Your Honor, Service Chief and concurrently the Chief of Legal and Adjudication Office of Cluster 4, National Government Sector, COA. The contracts pertaining to Tadeco and BuCor was referred to me as the Chief Legal and Adjudication Office of Cluster 4. Now, based on our evaluation, we noted that the holding of Tadeco over the Dapicol property exceeded the limitation under the Constitution. Under the 1973 Constitution, Your Honor, private corporations are only allowed to hold 1,000 hectares, while under the 1973 JVA entered into by BuCor with Tadeco, ay 3,000 at first. Then it increased up to 5,308.36, Your Honor. So we hold also, Your Honor, that this JVA entered into in 2003 is unconstitutional. The holding being more than what is restricted under the 1987 Constitution, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from the members regarding the position of the Commission and Audit? If there are none, we will proceed for other groups who would like to make a statement. We have here Pisanti Pilipinas. The General Secretary is Belinda Formanes, who is also requesting to state their position on this matter. May I now call in Belinda Formanes? The position of COA is that the JBA is unconstitutional, stating the provisions in the 1973 Constitution that JBA is only allowed for 1,000 hectares. However, the GBA between BuCor and Tadeco has already far exceeded the mandatory of 1,000 hectares to 5,308 hectares. So, do we have Representative Pompisante? You now have the floor.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Ako po si Evangeline Silva, ang National President po ng Pesante Pilipinas na dati ding presidente ng Honorca Pilipinas nung panahon na inumpisahan namin ang laban sa Dapicol. Year 2001 nung hindi pa nare-renew ang kontrata sa pagitan ng Bureau of Correction at saka ng Tadeco. Ito din yung mga panahon na kung saan napatay yung leader magbubukid namin na Secretary General si Enrico Cabanit sa Davao City o sa Panabo City mismo pagkatapos ng dialogo sa pagitan ng mga magsasaka na humihiling na i-turn over na ng Department of Justice sa DAR ang bahagi ng Dapicol na kung saan hindi naman kasama, hindi kabilang sa joint venture agreement dahil kalakhan po ng mga miyembro ng Pesante Pilipinas sa Davao del Norte ay mga dating nakulong. Pero sila din yung mga katutubo na naging bahagi ng mga manggagawa sa loob ng plantasyon. Kaya alam po nila kung saan yung mga hangganan noong Dapicol. Pasalamat po kami, ang aming hanay, katuwang ang Climate Change Congress of the Philippines na pinamumunuan po ni Archbishop Antonio Ledesma at ng aming Chief Legal Counsel na si Attorney Christian Munsod na nagkaroon po ng ganitong venue na muli maibalik sa pag-uusap ang usapin sa napakalawak na public land sa Davao del Norte. Hayaan niyo po mabasa ko sa inyo ang aming opisyal na position paper kaugnay po ng usapin sa Dapicol. Ang naturan pong reservation noong 1931, ito po ay sa ilalim ng Proclamation 414 na issue na ang isang napakalawak na lupain ay ng gobyerno ay gagamitin sa Davao Penal Colony. It is originally consists of about 30,000 hectares but was considerably reduced by subsequent presidential issuances, segregating portion thereof for other purposes such but not limited to yung P.S. Carriedo na Proclamation 240 na may sukat na 1,023 hectares. Ang E. Montilla sa ilalim ng Proclamation 245 na may 1,023 hectares at ang A. Antonio Florendo na may Proclamation 247 na may sukat na 1,023 hectares. Ang Panabo Hemp Company na sa ilalim ng Proclamation 474 na may 1,023 hectares. At ang panghuling proclamation, yung Duhali and Others, Proclamation 825 na may sukat na 1,900 hectares. The total area segregated from the reservation is over 20,000 hectares, of which the Florendos either own or have effective control over a significant part thereof. The DNR, in several occasions, Farmers Dialogue have consistently claimed that the remaining area for the Davao Penal Colony is 6,900 hectares. On the other hand, then Governor Rodolfo del Rosario of Davao del Norte have consistently aired in personal and radio interviews that the total area actually developed and operated by Tadeco is not less than 8,000 hectares. But the latest JBA entered into by Tadeco and the Bureau of Correction pegged the total area of 5,300 hectares. So doon pa lang po may conflict na. Ano po ang inire-raise naming issue? What is the accurate area of the reservation that Tadeco used for the business operation? Yun po yung isang kailangan maging maliwanag. Ano po ang action requested po? Considering the conflicting claims over how much area Tadeco has actual control and operation, it would be prudent for the Honorable Committee to order the DNR to survey the reservation to determine, among others, and validate the areas segregated from the reservation by succeeding proclamations. This will inform the Honorable Committee the true state of the over 30,000 hectares of Dapicol Reservation. The exact area of reservation that is under the control, under the actual control and operation of Tadeco under the circumstances, a transparent land survey will leave no room for doubt. The JBA, the business between BuCor and the Tadeco, first sealed in 1956, involving the cortication of abaca stalks produced by Dapicol, eventually became the stepping stone that led the two parties to agree on a joint venture agreement on July 11, 1969. Akin to the original accord, the new contract, a joint venture agreement, authorized the Florendo firm to decorticate abaca stalks from the Panabo sub-colony plantations. A major provisions, however, was introduced into the new covenant which provided Tadeco with the obligation to report to the Bureau. Based on its sound judgment, lands no longer profitable for abaca cultivation. In case this happened, the unproductive farms will be planted to sorghum and other marketable crops as part of the government's food production program. However, then abaca production was stopped. They amended the contract on December 26, 1969, to allow the use of lands devoted to abaca to be planted with exportable banana. So, noong 1969 po nag-umpisa na mag-crop conversion. The arrangement was and still is denominated by as joint venture agreement where Tadeco paid 1,500 per hectare per year from 1989 to 2004. And 275 pesos per hectare per year from 1969 to 1989. And in an early renewal of the contract, kasi dapat po 2004 ang renewal, ginawa po nilang 2003. It obliged to pay a guaranteed income of 5,000 pesos per hectare or a total of almost 7,000 per hectare inclusive of other benefits. All these considerations are to be remitted to the BuCor. Ano po ang issue namin dito? Are the business arrangement between Tadeco and BuCor, Bureau of Correction, valid? Action requested, immediate rescission of the contract for being void based on unconstitutional and statutory grounds. Number one, the JBA are basically lease contract involving a government reservation intended for the purpose of establishing and operating a penal colony in Davao. Being an alienable land of the public domain, it is often labeled as beyond the commerce of man. Article 7, Section 3 of our Constitution. BuCor acts of encumbering it via business contract violates that principle. Number 2, assuming that the reservation may be leased or subjected to business arrangement with private business corporation. The subject JBA are products of unlawful and criminal act executed in violation of RA 3019 or the Anti-Graft and Corruption Practices Law, particularly Section 3, of which state causing any undue injury to any party, including the government, or giving any private party any unwarranted benefits, advantage, or preference in the discharge of his official, administrative, or judicial function through manifest, partially evident, in bad faith, or gross inexcusable negligence. This provision shall apply to officers and employees of offices or government corporation charged with the grant of license or permit or other concession. Letter G, entering on behalf of the government into any contract or transaction manifest and grossly disadvantageous to the same, whether or not the public officer profited or will profit thereby. For example, rental rates in 1969 was already 1,200, 5,828 in 1985, 17,000 in 1992, 19,000 in 1999, 12,000 and 18,000 in 2001. The BuCor is one of it, if not the best banana production system in the country. Let's just say it's only produced an average of 4,000 boxes, reported at $4,500 per hectare per year. At an average of $4 per box, now $5 per box, it sells around 784,000 pesos per hectare per year, of 49 pesos per US dollar. That is equivalent to over 4 billion pesos in sale per year. For the 5,300.36 hectares area covered by the current JBA, and if the actual area will be found to be more than that is cited in the said contract, the sales and income that will be generated will be likewise increased. The principle of unjust enrichment may likewise find application under the circumstances. Napakalaki po ng perang nawawala sa ating pamahalaan. Proclamation 141 series ng taong 1931 establishing the Davao Penal Colony recognizes and respect prior rights. But when government food production program, unsuccessful at that, and Tadeco plantation were introduced in the area, the indigenous people and existing farmer-tiller and settlers were unduly, even forcibly ejected from their respective occupancy and tillage, while few who submitted to the design were relocated. But most of them were left to fend for themselves. Thus, Tadeco enjoys supremacy over indigenous people, original tillers, and settlers in the hierarchy of the rights. The reservation must be distributed to the indigenous people, to the original settlers and agrarian reform beneficiaries. Since June 15, 1988, when Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law was enacted, the reservation was already due for coverage and distribution to the qualified beneficiary as of 1994, pursuant to Section 4, Paragraph C of RA 6657. The reservation cannot qualify under Section 10 ng RA 6657 as it is not anymore actually, directly, and exclusively or found to be necessary for penal colony and penal farm work by inmates. On the contrary, it is actually directly and exclusively controlled and operated by private business corporation as a commercial plantation and work by thousands of workers than inmates. So ito po yung kalalagayan at mga nakikita po namin na dapat isaayos. yung mga magsasaka po, yung mga manggagawa sa plantasyon, yung mga katutubo na nawalan ng napakahabang panahon. Marami na po sa kanila, Your Honor, na namatay. Sa ngayon po, ang aming tagapangulo ng descendant, ang dasay ng Pesante, Pilipinas, ay obispo po sa Davao. Ay kasalukuyan po yan na may mga threat. Marami na pong mga manggagawa sa plantasyon na nakaranas ng panggigipit, pandarahas, at pananakot. Si Bishop Vasquez po ay isa sa mga may threat. Kaya po sana itong committee po, itong pagdinig na isinasagawa po sa ngayon ay tumungo sa totoong pagsasaayos at pamamahagi na ng lupa para sa mga katutubo na nawala ng karapatan sa mahabang panahon, sa mga settlers, sa mga descendant na napakatagal na po din nila yan na halos sila po ay mga tagapagmana na lang kasi yung mauna ang mga nag-umpisa ng pakikibaka po dito sa usapin ng Davao Penal Colony. Maraming salamat po sa pagkakataon na ibinigay niyo po sa aming maging bahagi ng pagdinig po na ito. Magandang umaga po muli sa inyong lahat.
Salamat din po. May we acknowledge the presence of Deputy Minority Leader Harry Roque, Deputy Majority Leader Ann Hopper.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative De Vera.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to manifest that to date, before government entities would enter into any joint venture agreement, they should be compliant with the NEDA guidelines. There are NEDA guidelines too, Your Honor. So I want to inform this body that it is now sine qua non that JVA should comply with the NEDA guidelines. So probably, Your Honor, we may know what would be the effect of the non-compliance of NEDA guidelines to any joint venture entered by any government entities, Your Honor. Thank you.
Noted. The Department of Justice has submitted their position on this subject matter dated May 29, 2017. And one of the recommendations is the Bureau of Corrections should put in motion the declaration of the nullity of the 1969 contract in all its supplements. May we now hear from Secretary Vitalio Aguirre for the explanation of their position.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman of the Department of the Committee on Justice. Speaker, Honorable Bebot Alvarez, members of the committee. May I be able to, the last time, I asked for time so that we could make a final report by the Department of Justice. And we came up with an investigation report on the BuCor-Tadeco joint venture agreement consisting of 12 pages. In this comment and recommendation, which I'm not going to read word for word, we just deal on the brief history of land classification in the Philippines in order to determine the legal classification of the Tadeco land, from which we'll draw a conclusion on whether or not the latter is within the commerce of man. We began with the laws dealing with land classification and disposition, beginning with the Philippine Bill of 1902, and then we discussed the first Public Land Act under the Philippine Bill of 1902, issued on October 7, 1903. And we discussed also the second Public Land Act on passed on July 1st, 1919, and the third Public Land Act, and this is the Public Land Act which we know today. This is the Commonwealth Act number 141. We dealt on several classifications of the land under the different constitutions, 1935, 1972, 71, and the 1987 Constitution, and dealt on the historical context of land classification under the said constitutions. we said that the authority to classify belonged to the President of the Philippines, and under the present Constitution, the lands of public domain are classified into alienable or disposable, timber, and 3 mineral lands. We also discussed the public land concept in page 8 of our report. And this is what I'm going to read. The history of the land comprising the DVA with Tadeco and BuCor. In my letter dated May 29, 2017, which we could call as the supplemental opinion of the Department of Justice, we wrote a letter to the Honorable Johnny T. Pimentel, Chairman, Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability. The subject is BuCor-Tadeco Joint Venture Agreement. I read, Dear Chairman Pimentel, this is reference to the position paper regarding the joint venture agreement, JVA, entered into between the Bureau of Corrections, BuCor, and Tagum Agricultural Development Company, Inc., Tadeco, which was alleged to be grossly disadvantageous to the government. The determination of the validity of the joint venture agreement between the Bureau of Corrections and the Tadeco hinges on whether the land, which is the subject of the JBA, comprising a total of 5,495 hectares, which is corrected to be 5,378 hectares by the DNR. What is the history of the land comprising the JVA? On October 7, 1931, American Governor General Dwight F. Davis issued Proclamation Number 414 reserving 28,816 hectares of land in the municipal districts of Kapalong and Tagum, Davao Province, as a government penal colony. Through the years, the 28,816 hectares have been reduced through several proclamations, and at present, the reserved penal colony have a total land area of 5,442.794 hectares, 977 square meters of which is being used as actual prison compound based on the delineated survey, and 5,345 hectares is the land covered by the GVA. We are corrected on this, and I think we are going to accept this, that the land remaining with BuCor, Dapicol is still 8,000 plus hectares. The first agreement between Tadeco and the then Bureau of Prisons was made on November 16, 1956 for the delivery of the latter share of Abacay stocks to the former for decortification. It was on December 26, 1969 that Tadeco and the Bureau of Prisons amended their decortification contract into banana export crop production contract. From an original contract of 3,000 hectares, it expanded to what is now 5,345 hectares. The nature of land comprising the JVA. Proceeding from the discussion as to the classification of the land subject matter of this contract, the 28,816 hectares reserved for use as government colony in 1931 did not make the land as part of the alienable and disposable land of the public domain. It remains to be an unclassified forest, public forest, there being no categorical declaration of its land classification until the present time. The several proclamations that ensued following the issuance of Proclamation Number 414, delimiting the size of the government colony, is a manifestation of the authority of the executive branch to reclassify from one class to another the uses of the land. At the time of the amendment of the decortification contract on 26 December 1969, the 3,000 hectares original contract area was still considered an unclassified public forest, following the exclusionary rule under the Philippine Bill of 1902 and later embodied in the series of Public Land Acts. It matters not that the JVA is either denominated as lease or joint venture agreement, since under Common Act number 141, which was the law when the amendment contract was executed in 1969, Section 10 provides that alienation, disposition, or concession shall mean any of the methods authorized by law for the acquisition, lease that includes the use or benefit of the lands of public domain other than timber or mineral lands. And the nature of the land covered by the JVA as unclassified public forest continues even with the several amendments of the JVA to what is now totals 5,345 hectares. The JVA, having for its object the land that is inalienable and outside the commerce of man, is void for being unconstitutional and contrary to law. Our recommendations. The President, upon the recommendation of the Secretary, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, declared the remaining 5,442, what is left of the DAPICOL under present circumstances, of the Davao Penal Colony as owned by the Bureau of Corrections, and put it within the ambit of Republic Act number 10575, otherwise known as the Bureau of Corrections Act of 2013. The Bureau of Corrections should put in motion the declaration of the nullity of the 1969 contract and all its supplements. For the Honorable Chairman's consideration, respectfully submitted, yours truly. And this bears the conformity, Your Honors, of the Director General Benamin C. Los Santos of the Bureau of Corrections.
Thank you, Secretary Aguirre.
Yes, with respect, Your Honor, please to the presentation of the Davao, Carmen, and Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries, Inc., and to the other similar petitions. The Department of Justice has denied the said application in November of 2016, precisely because we believe that we are not in a position, the DOJ is not in a position to award any of these lands because it requires the declaration on the part of the President. So we believe, Your Honor, please, that by dealing on the history of the land of the Tadeco, it is an unalienable land, and any disposition of it, whether by lease, joint venture, or any disposition, is void ab initio. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Aguirre. Any questions, comment from the members? Our Representative Harry Roque is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, the recommendation by the good secretary that the President should rescind this contract is a reiteration of the position of the Department of Justice in our earlier hearing in this committee. No? My question is the President the only entity that can rescind it? And what is the legal basis for your consistent position that it is the President that should rescind it? Noting that, with all due respect, Mr. Secretary, no, that your recommendations appear contradictory because right after your recommendation, and I'm referring to your written recommendation, that the President cancel, rescind the contract, you have also said that it is BuCor that should go to court for a declaration of nullity. So I'm a bit confused, again, with all due respect, Mr. Secretary, what exactly is the remedy that you are recommending given your conclusion that this contract is null and void ab initio? Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, sir. Your Honors, we recommended that in order that this matter would be expeditiously would be expedited in its termination or in its resolution, that the President, by virtue of his power as President of the Republic, could, because of the obvious nullity, could issue a proclamation declaring this contract as null and void. We would like to cite Presidential Decree number 1585, which provides that all contract entered into by any government agency or instrumentality for the utilization of any of the natural resources of the country should contain provisions that shall guarantee close administrative supervision and control over its implementation. As such, all said contracts shall contain the following conditions as integral parts. When the national interest so requires, the President of the Philippines may review, amend, modify, revise, rescind, or revoke any such contract or any condition or provision therein. B. Upon recommendation of the government agency or instrumentality concerned with the administration of such contract, the President may, pending the conduct of appropriate hearing, summarily suspend and order the cessation of all activities and operations under the contract for violation of any of the conditions or provisions therein, or of any condition prescribed in the duly issued rules and regulations of the administering government agency or instrumentality. So even under this presidential decree, the President has the power to declare it either totally or partially. Now, if the President would not act, then our next recommendation is for BuCor to file the appropriate petition or court case asking for the nullification or the declaration of nullity of this particular contract in view of the constitutional violation.
If I may, Mr. Chair, my follow-up question then would be, I'm concerned about the hierarchy of remedies that the good secretary has presented, no? And I'm also concerned that the hierarchy as he suggested may not be in accord with our system of government, given that it is the judiciary that will resolve justiciable controversies, no? So I guess my question is, why is it that in the hierarchy of remedies, the resort to a court action for declaration that the contract is void is only secondary to the President acting on the matter? If a matter under general contract law is null and void, I think regardless of the action of the executive, there is a remedy, a judicial remedy for declaration of nullity. So please guide us lang on how to appreciate the hierarchy of remedies that you have suggested. And also, in the last meeting, I inquired about what steps Congress could take, no, by way of legislation, no, to address this kind of a problem. Because let's face it, 19 kopong-kopong pa po yung ating Public Land Act. And perhaps one thing that we could learn from this incident, from this issue, is to find out how we can modernize and harmonize that ancient Commonwealth Act known as the Public Land Act with the 1987 Constitution. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you po. Actually, I would not say it hierarchy, you know. Actually, they could simultaneously be made, but I'm referring to the President's power, to the presidential power to revoke, revise, or amend any such contract if it is very clear that there is a constitutional violation. So if the President sees that it must be remedied immediately, then I believe that the President can do it. But if the President wanted the courts to have the final say on this, then the President will not exercise his such power to revoke, amend, or modify, and let the courts decide on this matter.
Mr. Chair, if I may, one last clarification.
Yes,
So
please proceed.
let me be clear on the matter, Mr. Good Secretary. Will you initiate the court action and not wait for the President to decide whether or not he will rescind the contract? Because that actually was my question in our last hearing. I see no impediment If the DOJ believes it is null and void, and the COA believes likewise, I see no impediment why tomorrow an action in court should not be filed, no, to declare the contract as being null and void.
Before we continue, may I acknowledge the presence of Deputy Speaker Gwen Garcia, Representative Strike Revilla, Deputy Majority Leader Roger Mercado, and of course, Representative Aurora Ciriles. Representative Romeo Acop also. Any further questions from the members with regards to the position of DOJ? Speaker Alvarez?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I'm just worried on the millions of pesos, no, na nawawala sa gobyerno every day. So, ano ang pwede niyong gawin para huminto yung nawawala sa gobyerno araw-araw? Anong remedy?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I believe that on the part of the DOJ, we could make a recommendation for the immediate action on the part of the President for the revocation of the contract. But in our recommendation, in the supplemental opinion, we stated here that the Bureau of Corrections should put in motion the declaration of nullity of the 1969 contract in all supplements. In other words, Mr. Chairman, we have recommended here that since it's BuCor who is the party in interest, who is the contracting parties in the Tadeco BuCor JV or lease contract, that it would be BuCor who would initiate. But being the alter ego of the President, the Secretary of Justice or the Department of Justice may make the recommendation for the immediate revocation of the contract.
Can BuCor secure the lands now to avoid further losses on the part of the government?
May I refer to the BuCor representatives, Director General DJ Los Santos, as well as the head of the DAPICOL.
Securing the existing facilities, Your Honor, being occupied by, being utilized by Tadeco.
Yes, to avoid further losses on the part of the government. Because this is a very highly disadvantageous contract. Now, you have to cut the losses of the government.
Well, the worst case scenario, Your Honor, is Tadeco has to stop production and our ground personnel will secure the area, notwithstanding our deficient number of guards.
Please submit a report to the committee on your plans or steps to avoid further losses on the part of the government.
Will do, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mrs. Linda Lagdameo? Yes. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Your Honor.
You are the eldest among the siblings. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. May we know how old were you in 1969?
Ooh, 1969. I'm now 70.
So,
So how old is that?
ilan?
Huh? How old is that?
So, ilang taon siya nung 69?
Huh? Let him compute.
Ah, okay, so you were 23. that
think
correct?
so, Your Honor.
Okay. Would you know what was your net worth, the family's net worth, in 1969?
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Would you remember what businesses were the family engaged into in 1969?
Your Honor, can I refer to Mr. Sasin? He's
Okay.
been with us for a
Okay.
long time.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Sasin.
Mr. Speaker, in 1969, Mr. Florendo had a Ford dealership based in Davao City. We were selling Ford cars. Meron hong Ford dealership
Okay.
in 1969 po. As
Ano
one
pa,
of
ano
the
pa pong
business.
mga negosyo?
Meron po kaming piggery po sa Marapangi under Ninita Stock Farm.
Piggery, okay.
Meron ding, we started in the banana already later part of 1969 when the banana industry wanted to develop in Mindanao.
Okay.
So I think that was the time when the discussion on trying to convert from abaca was done, abaca to banana.
Okay. So at that time, there were only two established businesses because you are yet about to start with the banana business. Is that
Yes,
correct?
including the piggery.
Yes,
And
piggery
Tadeco
and
was there already.
dealership?
Dealership po because we were, in Tadeco, we were decorticating abaca, as you know.
Okay, so
And
tatlo.
then, tatlo, and then meron tayong piggery po sa Marapangi po.
Kaya nga, tatlo.
Po.
Tatlo. The
Opo.
piggery, dealership, and decorticating.
Yes, to my recollection, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay. In your estimate, mga magkano ang net worth ng pamilya nung panahon na yon?
In 1969, I was a salesman, Mr. Speaker, but I can easily get the records to show what were the networks then.
Estimate lang. More or less.
I would not venture, Mr. Secretary. The prices then were very much lower. I would make a mistake, but if you want me to submit it, I can easily do it.
It's all right to make a mistake. We all do make mistakes. We just want an estimate.
No idea. No idea.
No idea?
I don't like to venture there. It's
Okay. At that time, ano yung company na that was engaged in piggery, dealership, and decorticating business, abaca decorticating business?
yung piggery was Ninita Stock Farm.
Mm.
The dealership was Davao Motor Sales.
Mhm.
The Tadeco was Tadeco Development Tadeco.
Okay, same owners, no? Stockholders?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Kailan ho tumayo yung Anflocor?
That was sometime during the 70s.
During the 70s?
Yes, sir.
Ano pong relationship ng Anflocor doon sa Tadeco, Ninita Stock Farm, and yung dealership?
Anflocor is a management company, Mr. Speaker.
Holding company?
Management.
Management
Yes, sir.
company. So same stockholders, same officers.
Yes, sir.
Anflocor, Tadeco, Ninita Stock Farm, and the dealership.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, yung between 2013 and 2017, who are the officers nung Tadeco and Anflocor? Chairman of the board, president, board of directors.
Mr. Speaker, at that time, I was a salesman in the 70s.
Nung 2013 na, fast forward tayo, 2013 to 2017.
2013, I think I retired on that year, Mr. Speaker, but Mr. Baloria here can
Sige.
If you may, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Valoria.
The question, sir, was who was the chairman
Now, who are the officers
in
in
Anflor?
2013?
I can check that, sir.
Wala
I was
kang-
not around in 2013. I
Wala
started in
ka pa.
2007, sir. But I can
Wala kayong record ngayon dyan?
we will check, sir, and get it to you.
Sa 2017, who are the officers of the corporation?
The officers of Tadeco.
Tadeco.
That's
Chairman of the board? Members of the board?
the chairman of the board is Mr. Sasin. I'm the
Kala ko nag-retire.
no, this is 2016 now. He came back.
Nag-employ ulit?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sasin is the chairman. I am the president, CEO. The directors are Mrs. Ninito Florendo, Mrs. Linda Lagdameo, Mrs. Cristina Brias, Ricardo Florendo, and Vincent Florendo.
Okay. What about Congressman Tony Boy Florendo?
As of now, sir, he is not on the board of...
As of 2016,
In 2016, yes, sir.
member of the board. Okay.
As of right now, no, sir.
Sa 2017, yes. Sa
Yes, sir.
2016, he was still a member of the board. Am I correct?
Not in Anflor. In Tadeco, sir?
Tadeco or Anflocor?
In Tadeco, he was only a shareholder, but not a member of the board.
In Anflocor?
In Anflocor,
Chairman of the board?
he was, for part of the year, sir, for 2016, he was chairman, and then he
Chairman of the
subsequently...
board.
And then
Okay.
he subsequently resigned.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Going back to Mr. Sasin,
Yes, sir.
noon pong 1969, nag-umpisa kayo ng ilang hectares? 3,000 ba? Tama ba yun? Nung 1969, Tadeco.
You are referring to the start of Tadeco.
Yes, the banana plantation.
That was a gradual expansion. I think the total area planted eventually became something like 700 because the banana was looking for a soil that was compatible for that, Mr. Speaker, and removing our hospital, our school, the administration building, airstrip, the possible box plant that will be there. I think 700 would be a good estimate on what, but we can give it to you right away if you...
So kailan
for-
kayo
yes.
nag-expand ng hectarage? What year?
1969 ang start ho ng development. Then, as you know, at that time, Mr. Speaker, there was a limitation on plantable area. There was a decree then on how many hectares could be planted because there was a fear whether you overplanted, you might drop the prices.
Yes. So
worldwide.
kailan
Yes, sir.
kayo nag-start ng expansion?
Oh, I would say maybe towards the later part of 1971 or 72.
Okay. So, nung 2003, ilang hectares na yung farm nyo? Tadeco, banana.
It was already 5,308 gross area, Mr. Speaker.
Only 5308
5,308.
in 2003.
That was the joint venture, if you're referring to that.
Yes, hindi, yung buong ano nyo, buong operations nyo, nung 2003, I understand you expanded to other provinces, no?
Yes, if you talk about, if you're referring to the other corporations that we put up, we did go to Don Marcelino.
So hindi na Tadeco yun?
Hindi po.
So ang Tadeco, yun lang area na yan na nandyan sa Davao del Norte?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In 2004, did Tadeco export a total of around $47 million worth of bananas abroad? The actual figure is 47,622,798 US dollars.
Can I
Is
check,
that
Mr.
correct?
Speaker? Is this 2004 figure? Can I check, please?
2004.
In 2004, Mr. Speaker, the total export was about 66
$1 million.
million from different areas that we had.
Okay. So, from 66. From 2005 to 2016, did Tadeco exported around $658 million worth of bananas. Is that correct?
We have to compute, if you don't mind, Mr. Speaker.
Sige.
Yes po.
Okay.
But if you please, we can submit this to you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
If you you want us to submit all sales from 2004 up to 2016?
Yes.
Is that what you want?
Yes,
Sir.
please.
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Speaker.
So, because we have figures here.
Yes, sir.
No, so we
Yes,
want
sir.
to
You can
check.
cross-check that. Yes,
Oh,
sir. These are all
okay.
exports, and these are all verified, Mr. Speaker.
So, am I correct to state that Tadeco manages to export at the very minimum 1 billion pesos worth of bananas per year? Safe na yon, no?
At today's prices, yes, sir.
Very safe. So kung 1 billion, mga magkano yung share ng Dapicol every year for the land?
Well, we would have to extrapolate that from our finances because that is
More or less. At 5,000 per hectare per year times 5,308, tapos may share na 1 peso. More or less. Yes, Mr. Valoria?
Yeah, we prepared for that, Mr. Speaker. He can.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, snapshot of 2016. These are actual figures already now, and in fact receipted already by the BuCor. The guaranteed production share is 35,327,000 pesos, and the profit share per box based on 21,155,000 boxes exported was 9,527,000.
Okay, total?
For a total of 44,854,726 in 2016.
So, more or less, sabihin na natin 45 million yung share ng gobyerno.
Yes, sir.
Doon sa isang taon.
Yes, sir. That's the, and we also paid the inmates farm training program of 5.5 million.
Okay.
The stipend support program of 92 356,000 for a grand total of 142,719 and 662 pesos.
Okay, so that is how many percent of 1 billion? More or less.
Of 1 billion, then that's 14%.
14, huh?
If you're basing it on 1 billion, sir? 14%.
1 billion, 1 billion.
Based on 1 billion,
Yes.
if your reference is 1 billion, then 142 million would be 14.2%.
14.2%.
Yes, sir.
The share of the government, no? Yung share ng government per box, irrespective of the prices of bananas.
Yes,
Constant yun, constant yun.
Yes, sir. The production, the guaranteed production share is a fixed amount for the total that, as we reported last time, increases by 10% every 5 years. And the profit share per box is an amount based on the actual boxes exported from the JVA area, sir. Likewise, increasing 10% every 5 years, sir.
If this is a hypothetical question, no? If you own the land, would you agree to have a share of only 100 or of only 14%?
I think
Of the
personally,
total production?
hypothetically, sir, I would jump at it because I have no risk. I don't have a single centavo involved. My opinion, sir.
Ganun, okay. That is your opinion. What is your plan now that the several government agencies are now saying that the contract is highly disadvantageous to the government and it contravenes the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, because the words are very clear.
Yes, sir. You've made those points very clear. We likewise have made our position to you respectfully to this committee last time. We believe that we are on solid constitutional ground, and we believe that through the years it has been proven undoubtedly that our operations are an advantage to the government and to the objectives of the BuCor. I'm eager also, sir, and I fully support the effort now to come up with another survey, because that really hopefully that will really cure many of the issues that were aired here by our fellow Davaoenos. And indeed, if there were anybody disenfranchised by such operations, we would be first and foremost upfront in wanting to cure those errors.
Is that what your lawyers told you?
Sir, I'm an upstanding, moral Filipino, and I would not involve myself in anything.
Hindi.
that would be
Tinatanong ko
dubious.
lang, yung ba yung advice ng lawyers nyo?
Definitely, we have been discussing with my lawyers, sir.
Sino lawyer nyo rito? Is he around?
My chief legal officer is Attorney Nick Banga, who is on my left, sir.
Anong law office ka, Panyero?
Sir, I'm sorry. He's the chief legal officer on my. So he's an officer on the company.
Okay.
On my right is Attorney Gilbert Galios from Accra.
Oh, big law firm. Ano advice mo, Attorney Galios, sa kliyente nyo?
Well, good morning, Your Honors.
Yeah, good morning.
Well, our advice, Your Honors, is just to comply with the law. When we also reviewed the contract and the JVA and its history, and frankly, Your Honor, we believe that the contract is constitutional, but nevertheless, we said whatever is discussed there, we will fully cooperate and, meet the issues head on, Your Honor.
Pero alam mo, nag-aral din ako ng batas. Kahit paano ko baliktarin basa yung Constitution. Malinaw talaga doon yung hindi dapat lumampas ng 1,000 hectares eh. Paano ba natin gagawin yon para maging legal yon? Please enlighten us.
With due respect, Your Honor, we believe that limitation in the 1987 Constitution refers to alienable lands of the public domain.
Pag inalienable, hindi mag-a-apply yung provision.
That provision on area limitation does not apply to inalienable lands of the public domain, Your Honor.
Paano yung beyond the commerce of man? Pagka halimbawa public land.
Under the 1935 and 1973 Constitutions, Your Honor, there is no prohibition on the part of the government to enter into a joint venture agreement with respect to natural resources, which include inalienable public lands. In fact, under the 1987 Constitution, it is expressly allowed that the government can enter into joint venture agreements with respect to inalienable lands of the public domain.
Anong provision ng Constitution yan?
That is Section 2 of Article 12.
Section 2?
Of Article 12, Your Honor.
Of Article 12?
Yes.
DOJ, tinignan nyo ba yun? Section 2 of Article 12?
Tinignan po namin yun, Mr. Chairman. Pero sa aming pumpalagay, hindi po applicable yan sapagkat it is our position here that the land in question is beyond the commerce of man, it being classified as a unclassified public forest. Kaya talagang hindi maaring, whether it is, kaya yung ating classification or ating distinction, whether it's a JV, joint venture, or a lease, would not apply. It is an unclassified forest, public forest, kaya it's beyond the forest, the commerce of man.
Thank you, Secretary Aguirre. Panyo, I'm asking these questions because in fairness to your clients, pag-aralan nyo rin yung Republic Act 7080, yung law on plunder. Kasi baka pumasok doon yung mga stockholders. Ang tinitignan lang dito, 50 million, pero sa tingin ko, by the billions ang talo ng gobyerno rito. Siguro, pag-aralan nyo ng mabuti ito, dahil kawawa naman, non-bailable pa naman yung kaso.
We will take that, Your Honor. We will take your advice on that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We would like to, before we continue, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of SEC Chairperson Teresita Herbosa. We'd also like to acknowledge Representative Strike Revilla, Representative Arnel T., Representative Joel Mayo Almario, and Representative Edwin Ong. For the information of the members of the House of Representatives and members of this committee, we have invited several resource persons. In fact, a total of 43 resource persons. We have already heard the position of different organizations such as the Davao Settlers Association, the Carmen Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries, and another concerned organization. We have already heard the position of COA and the DOJ. The floor is now open for any interpolation from the members. Any question from the members of the committee? Any person or organization, group of persons who would like to make any statement with regards to this subject matter? Attorney Lopez.
Honorable Speaker, this is actually in relation to the answer of the President of Tadeco. His statement was that the total amount paid by Tadeco to Bureau of Corrections in 2016 is 142.7 million, sir. Because I am actually seeing the official website of the Bureau of Corrections. In their income and expense report as of December 31, 2016, what was only reported, Your Honors, is a rental Tadeco, which is 35,327,174, and production share Tadeco, which is 9,357,806.47. So I really wonder that 142 million and the statement of the prisoner subsidy, sir, it is not actually reported or reflected in the statement of income of Bureau of Corrections. So where did it actually go? How was it considered? Perhaps the Commission on Audit can look into this, because we cannot really find in the official website of the Bureau of Corrections as to that support for prisoners and subsidy for prisoners, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
May we request Superintendent Padilla to answer the query of Attorney Lopez, whether you received, as alleged by Tadeco, 141 million pesos in total revenues in year 2016? Because according to Attorney Lopez, there seems to be discrepancy with regards to the statement of Mr. Valoria and to the statistics from the website that he has presented.
The 35 millions, sir, as stated by Attorney Lopez, for 6 months lang po yun, and a total of 42 million for 1 year, and then yung profit sharing na 9 million, 227 po ba yun? So, and yung stipend for the inmates, so yun po yung kabuuan ng 142, and yung ibang operational expenses. But the whole amount po, sinasubmit po yan directly sa BuCor, not to the Davao Prison.
So therefore, anyway, for purpose of verification, since there are two conflicting amounts, may we request Tadeco to submit to the committee the revenues that you gave BuCor, and so that there will be a reconciliation, may we request BuCor to submit also the revenues that you received in 2016. Makikita natin doon. Because makikita natin doon whether magkano ang binigay ng Tadeco, magkano ang natanggap ng BuCor.
Yes, sir. We have submitted that all of that already actually, all payments and supporting documents from 2004 up to 2016.
It has already been submitted?
That has all been submitted, complete.
Okay,
with,
we will check, we
receipts
will
and
check on that.
supporting documents, sir.
Then, how about the BuCor? Have you already submitted the revenues that you have received from Tadeco from 2004 to 2016? If not, if you are not able to do that, then please do submit it as soon as possible, the revenues that you have received from 2004 to 2016 to this committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman, can we request COA to conduct a special audit on this transaction between BuCor and Tadeco? So we will ascertain how many boxes of bananas were produced and yung presyo per box ng bananas, kung sino yung buyer doon. And i-check din yung figures ng kung doon sa Bureau of Customs, no? Sigurado merong record yan kung ilan yung lumabas na saging. At saka i-check din kung remitted yung mga yung all proceeds, no, payments remitted sa Pilipinas. Tapos i-check nyo rin kung magkano yung income tax na binabayaran taon-taon nung Anflocor, Tadeco, and the individual shareholders. Tingnan natin kung nagmamatch. Okay.
Will comply, Your Honor. Although yung sa income tax returns po, these are confidential kasi by law, so we do not actually have access to it. But a request can be made through the Office of the President po.
Okay, or maybe BIR. Next time we will ask the Commissioner of the BIR to attend the committee hearing, as well as the Commissioner of Customs.
May I acknowledge the presence of Prospero Boots Pichay. We still have seats here. Chairman Nomali.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering whether we also invited DBM for this meeting. Wala. Can we invite them? But siguro, I'll address my question to COA. In particular, with respect to trust funds and or revolving funds, would you be familiar with the regulations on the management of either trust funds or revolving funds, and what are the requirements for a trust fund and or a revolving fund to be established in the Bureau of Treasury?
Sir, on the requirements for the creation of a trust fund, it is so specified under the general provisions, sir.
Of?
Special provisions of the BuCor.
So, in this particular
GAA.
case, is there any provision in the law that created BuCor, or even in this proclamation, that allows funds or revenues generated from this type of activities to be separately accounted and be used as trust funds without having to go through a General Appropriations Act?
We have not considered that, Your Honor. We only considered the provisions of the General Appropriations Act, special provision, because that is also a law, so we take it from there.
And this special provision appears every year in the General Appropriations Act?
Yes, Your Honor.
Since when?
Hindi po namin alam, sir, kung kailan nag-umpisa. Basta since I was the SA of the BuCor that was in 2011. Said provision is already in the GAA.
Sige, pakisubmit lang po yung provision na yun. For the benefit of the members. Kanina kasi ni-request na ni Speaker for you to do an audit on this. But anyway, just for the benefit of the members, para lang maintindihan po natin, paano ba itong trust fund na to? How is this accounted? How is this utilized? What approvals are needed for you to be able to draw from this trust fund, and how is this accounted, and how much fund remains in the trust fund of the Bureau of Treasury on this particular account of BuCor?
Based on the provision of the GAA, Your Honor, this fund may be used for the construction of facilities for the BuCor. So marami sir dun eh, pero we are not
Additional subsistence allowance.
also the additional subsistence allowance of the you tell.
Miss, ano ba ito? Miss hindi, artista ba?
Based po dun sa
Gonzales.
special provisions of the General Appropriations Act for 2016, the fund can be used for as additional subsistence allowance of inmates, and also the repairs and maintenance of the prison facilities.
Tama po yan. Meron ho bang sinasubmit ito to a board? Kasi to my recollection, if you create a trust fund, there must be a board composing of DBM, of course, BuCor, DOJ ho siguro.
Yes,
I do not know which board has
Your
been
Honor.
constituted for the purpose. So,
This is a requirement.
nagsasubmit po
the
sila.
fund utilization, Your Honor.
Yung fund utilization.
And they are required, the BuCor are required to maintain a separate books of accounts.
BuCor, okay.
Just for this fund, Fund 284. This is a trust fund under Fund 284.
So tatanungin ko lang po ang BuCor, meron ba kayong mine-maintain na separate books on the utilization of this fund?
Yes, Your Honor. All of these are properly accounted for and classified under 284 as stated by COA.
Okay po. So, magkano po ang natitira dito? The reason I asked this is I was saying, hindi ho natin ma-implement yung BuCor modernization law dahil sa kakulangan ng pondo. And now, we now realize that there are so many, or there is a revenue capacity, there is a capacity of BuCor to generate revenues that can be used internally and even without having to go through the General Appropriations Act. And yet, laging pestering problem natin po yung pagkain ng mga inmates and so on and so forth. So, yung pala, meron tayong pinaggagalingan nito. Pati repair, pati expansion, because the BuCor director was saying earlier that they are planning to use yung 3,600 hectares for purposes of accommodating yung mga prisoners who are overcrowding in the different jails, no? Kanya meron palang paggagamitan ito, so importante ito para sa Committee on Justice para magawan po natin ng mga karampatang solusyon yung maraming problema natin sa correctional. So, ang hingin ko na lang po for the meanwhile, because I do not want to engage you in the details, paki-submit po muna natin sa committee na ito yung mga pertinent documents and preferably audited ho ng COA para mas malinaw ho at mas maintindihan po natin. At pati na rin yung mga regulasyon on the use of this trust fund. Sige po. Salamat po.
Mr. Chairman?
Speaker Alvarez.
Yes, I'd like to ask this question to the representative of DNR, I think the regional director. This has nothing to do with the joint venture agreement, but out of curiosity, kasi nandito na rin si director. Ma'am, are you familiar with the DICT, yung Davao International Terminal? A container terminal?
In Panabo, yes, sir.
Yes. I'm just curious, no, kasi dati, ang naalala ko dyan, mangrove area yan. Ano ho ang status nung lupa na yan as of today?
It used to be a timberland, sir. But there in 1969, there was an issuance of Republic Act 5743. This is an act enacted, however, without executive approval, declaring portions of the area into alienable and disposable. However, in 1982, of October 21, portion of that area again was reverted back to forest lands.
So, anong status ng lupa na yan ngayon? Is it titled or anong
From 1969, sir, up to 1982, there were issuances of titles. It is expected. However, in 1982, we can no longer issue titles because the area has now become timberland.
Okay, may I ask Mr. Valoria, ilang hectares po yan DICT?
At the port area itself is, if I'm not mistaken, sir, about 11 hectares.
11 hectares. How
11
many
hectares.
titles?
Most of that, sir, is titled.
Yeah, how many titles covering the 11 hectares?
I have no idea, sir. I can submit that to the committee.
Kasi I'm just wondering why natituluhan yung tubig. Dati tubig yan eh.
We don't have any titles over any water, sir.
Can we ask the DNR to make a more accurate report doon sa buong terminal? Kung
Yes, sir.
if it is still a timberland or public land?
Yes, Your Honor, we will evaluate further on the ground and on the records that we have in the office.
Okay, thank you.
This committee, any interpellation, any questions? As I've said, we have 43 resource persons. We have also invited SEC. Do you have any questions with Representative Harry Roque?
Well, Mr. Chair, I just have 2 points, and I would like to ask indulgence of this committee because I have a resolution being heard next door. No? But I thought it was important first that I get a categorical answer from the good Secretary of Justice on whether or not he will order the immediate filing of a court action to declare this contract as null and void, or he will await first action of the President.
Aantayin pa natin yung presidente o pwede na direct.
As I have answered a while ago, Mr. Chairman, pwede pong sabayan eh. We could execute or file the appropriate petition in court, but at the same time, we could ask the President to act on this immediately. Kasi mas mabilis ang action ng Presidente kung makukuha natin ang favorable action niya to cancel or revoke the contract.
Mr. Chair, but my question is, ano na po ang gagawin ni Secretary Aguirre? He has given us options which can be done at the same time, but what exactly will the good secretary do in this instance?
We could make a written report to the President where I'm going to say, or I'm going to state, the 2 options that available to the 2 options that could be done in connection with the BuCor-Tadeco deal. So, sasabihin ko rin po doon na the President may immediately cancel or revoke the contract, or he may allow the filing first of the appropriate petition in court.
Mr. Chair, I would like to assure the good secretary that I respect his discretion, but just to be clear, filing a case tomorrow is out of the question at this point in time until you have given the president the option.
That's if we did not put that option, that is the here in the appropriate in the amended opinion, but we have already stated that in our first opinion. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a letter to the president informing him of this fact, this proceedings, and informing him that he could immediately act on this, or he could allow the filing of the appropriate legal action.
Well, my next question, Mr. Chair, is the good secretary also created a task force to look into this body, and if I'm not mistaken, our good undersecretary, the former chief state counsel, was also a member of this panel. Could we have a copy of the report or submitted to you by this panel? Because what we have is your communication to the chair of this committee, but we do not have a copy of the report made by that panel that you created to study this matter.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, actually, Chief State Counsel Paras beside me, and I thought that I've already distributed a copy of the 12-page investigation report. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, we are willing to give any member who has not yet received a copy of this 12-page report, aside from the 3-page report constituting my supplemental opinion, dated May 29, 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My next question is addressed to the DNR. The Association of Agrarian Reform Claimants testified earlier, and they have a written communication, that there is a 400 plus, more or less, hectares of land that seem to be occupied by Tadeco without any legal basis. So, anyone from the DNR, can you confirm the conduct of this survey? JVA 1, JVA 2, JVA 1, 400 plus hectares, JVA 2, 5,000 hectares, and your conclusion that JVA 1 has no legal basis because it came only from the claimants.
Your Honor, based on the 2013 actual survey conducted, that was, to be specific, May 17, 2013, we submitted report, Your Honor, that Tadeco occupied 5,348.8 hectares. This is the overall, and not 5,308.56 hectares as stated in the 2003 JVA. Thus, Your Honor, there is an excess of around 36.434 hectares that is not included in the GVA. And we are in a position that supposedly there must also be rental to be collected from the 36.434 hectares.
Mr. Chair, but I am referring now, if the DNR can refer to the communication made by the Davao Settlers Association, Inc. and Small Settlers Landless Association, dated May 29, 2016, addressed to the Honorable Chair of this committee. In page 6, it says that there was allegedly a survey conducted by your office indicating, and I quote, Tadeco is using 404.0325 hectares in JVA 1, Area 1, and then Tadeco is using 5,006.4314 hectares in GVA Area 2. And they also said in the last paragraph of page 6 this JVA1 is categorically not part of reservation created under proclamation. Now, there seems to be an inconsistency with the claim of the beneficiaries and the claim of the DNR, because now you're saying that the only area not covered by any title is how many? 36 hectares?
36.
Of how many? What was it that you mentioned earlier?
The excess of 36.434 hectares.
Yes, but the beneficiary, Mr. Chair, is claiming it's 414 hectares. So I do not know how to reconcile this figure. Is it 414 hectares or merely 46 hectares? Can you please look at this letter so that we will be guided accordingly, because we do not know what excess area we're talking about.
Mr. Chairman, can I refer this to the former regional director of Region 11, because I just took office last February 6, Director Alicer.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. It would seem, Your Honor, that the GBE1 is not part of the proclamation of what remains to be with the BuCor. But per our record, Your Honor, when in 1950, under Executive Order number 37, when the NAFCO, National Abaca Fibers Corporation, was abolished, the operation and administration of the 2,005 hectares of NAPCO project was transferred to the Bureau of Prisons under the supervisions of the Board of Liquidators. So on November 27, 1954, Executive Secretary Fred Ruiz Castro implemented the directive of the President, completely transferring the NAPCO Abaca, which is 2,500, to the Bureau of Prisons. And we are referring to the area which is outside of the proclamation at the middle, Your Honor, which is now covered by GBA 1, around 436 hectares.
So, Mr. Chair, I do not know what the answer is. So, what's the excess area now? Hindi naguluhan po ako doon sa sagot niya, no? Basta sinasabi lang ng mga beneficiaries, 414 yung wala daw title whatsoever to occupy. And then earlier, a lady from the NR said it was 46. Which is which po? 36, no? Not 46, 36.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 36.
Oh, 36. Kasi po, malaki yung 414 at saka 36 na diferensya, no? So, which is which?
36.
36. That's
Only
Your-
36.
Your Honor, the final result submitted to the central office when we were required is 36 hectares, Your Honor.
My next question, Madam Mr. Chair, is you found this out in 2013. What steps did you actually take, if any, no, to make sure that the government naman is protected? Because as you claim, there is absolutely no legal title for anyone to occupy these 36 hectares.
In 2013, Your Honor, there was a congressional inquiry headed by Congressman Teves, Committee on Agrarian Reform. This is our compliance to the requirement of the committee at the time, Your Honor.
Ibig sabihin, wala po kayong ginawa.
We submitted this to the committee, Your Honor, based on records.
But you are the DNR. You are the representative of the state. You exercise patria, ano tawag doon? Parents patria over the natural resources of the Republic. Wala kayong ginawa to recover 36 hectares.
Your Honor, this is the 36 hectares is within the Republic, the Proclamation 414, which is directly under the administration of the Bureau of Corrections.
So, teka man, naguluhan na naman ako. Akala ko walang titulo yon. Bakit nasa under na naman ng Bureau of Corrections? So, it's in the reservation. So, ang sinasabi mo lang, it's actually within the BuCor reservation, but Tadeco's not paying lease or anything for its use of 36 hectares. Tama ba ho yan?
Yes, Your Honor.
And likewise, wala naman kayong ginawa as DNR, even if you have discovered this as early as 2013.
We informed the Committee on Agrarian Reform, Your Honor. There was a report submitted that there is an excess of 36 hectares. And we understand that one of those called by the committee is the Bureau of Corrections.
Okay. My last question, Mr. Chair, because I have to leave for the Committee on Human Rights, is addressed again to the Secretary. Now, in the earlier presentation of Tadeco, they highlighted that the merits of this joint venture is not solely pesos and cents, but also in pursuance to the mandate of BuCor towards rehabilitation. Now, they also said, I do not know if this is true, that the recommendation is to replicate the Tadeco experience in other parts of the country, no? Do you share that view that there is merit in this JV because of the rehabilitation aspect being accorded the detainees, no, the convicts the inmates in Tadeco, and this is very important for our purposes in the Committee of Justice. And will you, if so, what would be your model agreement if you're going to replicate it in other parts of the country? In other words, what have we learned from this experience if we want to continue it, and what will you ensure in any similar agreement if you want to continue with this thrust for rehabilitation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I don't know about that rehabilitation thing, but from the short time that I'm at the helm of the DOJ, I have not been informed that this contract with Tadeco would constitute some sort of rehabilitation for the inmates. Actually, because of they have no commonality. In other words, BuCor and Tadeco have no commonality of purpose. One is a commercial entity, and of course we know that commercial entity exists for profit, and the other is for the rehabilitation and correction of the inmates. So I am not aware that this Tadeco contract could be considered as contributing to the rehabilitation of the inmates of Dapicol. However, for more direct and to-the-ground observation, I would like to refer your questions, Your Honor, to the Director General of the BuCor as well as to the head of the Dapicol.
Yes, Your Honor, please. The basic mandate of BuCor is the safety of PDLs and reformation. Now, part of our reformation and rehabilitation program is the utilization of PDLs in profitable endeavors like Tadeco. And for that reason, they receive minimum wage even if they only work for 3 to 4 hours a day, because of limitations with respect to availability of personnel to escort them from the jail facilities to the workplace. We have other programs not only about banana plantations. We have handicraft, we have export materials to other countries being done at NBP. So I submit that the Tadeco endeavor is part of our reformation scheme or program, Your Honor.
And Mr. Chairman, may I also add that in this connection, as a contract between a government body and a purely commercial private entity, I believe that there must be some sort of a regulatory body which should regulate these things, just like the NEDA guidelines. So I don't know if the NEDA guidelines will be applicable, but definitely there must be such body to determine if it's advisable and how much would be the share of the government agency entering into contract with a private entity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I said earlier, I hope the committee can indulge me. I'm actually the author of a resolution for
You're
another
excused.
investigation next door. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
May I now recognize Deputy Speaker Gwen Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, earlier there were figures said or given, and we had requested the Bureau of Corrections to submit a statement of funds that actually accrue to the Bureau of Corrections. So I believe, as was claimed by Mr. Attorney Benjamin de los Santos, the Director General, we are in fact in receipt of the annual guaranteed production shares received by Tadeco and the production profit sharing figures which we have here. Do you confirm this, Attorney de los Santos?
Yes, Your Honor. We submitted the documents required on those 5 items, actually, Your Honor.
And this would be the annual guaranteed production shares, the production profit sharing, and
These are, one, copy of the certificate of ownership or the tax deck, then minutes and meetings of monitoring committee created under the JVA, reports on production and profit shares of BuCor from the said JVA, and other supporting documents, Your Honor.
as far as revenues that accrue to BuCor, we are in receipt here of just the annual guaranteed production shares from 2003 up to June of 2017, and the BuCor production profit sharing from 2004 to December of 2016. Is this correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And so would you categorically state that as insofar as funds that actually go into the trust fund or go into the trust fund for the purpose received by BuCor, these are only two. These are
Yes.
the only two
Yes, Your Honor.
sources of such funds.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let us go back to 2016 because I was earlier struck by a point which Speaker Alvarez had raised. If I may ask the representative from Tadeco, how much, again, was the annual gross revenues of Tadeco for 2016?
Gross sales was 3.7 million, Your Honor.
No.
7
I heard about $66 million.
Oh, for 2000, sorry,
For 2016, please.
2016. Total revenue of $150 million. That's gross revenue.
That is for 2016 alone.
That's 2016, yes, ma'am.
$150 million
150 million gross sales,
gross revenue.
yes.
Converted to peso at 50 pesos to a dollar, that would be
Well, the actual, using the actual booked foreign exchange rate, that is equal to 7,150 million pesos, ma'am.
7,150
150
million pesos. Now, for 2016, according to figures submitted by Tadeco, the annual guaranteed production shares from January to June and July to December of 2016 would add up to about 35 billion. Is this correct, Attorney De Los Santos? 35 million. You have from February 1, 2016, that would be 17,663,587. And then from July to December, July 11, 2016 to December, that would be 17,663,587. Or
Correct,
more or
Your-
less a total of 35 million.
Yes, Your Honor.
And again, according to the data that you submitted for the BuCor production profit sharing for the year 2016, BuCor got a total amount of 9,527,552.05. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Adding up these two figures, 35 million and 9,500,000, that would give you a total of how much, Attorney De Los Santos?
More or less 48, 46, 47
47 million.
Your Honor.
That is actually deposited to the trust fund
It's a general fund, Your Honor.
or
under
to the
Fund
general fund.
284.
Well, it is the funds that BuCor receives,
Yes, Your Honor.
47 million
Yes, Your Honor.
for 2016.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the total gross revenues of Tadeco for that same year added up to over 7 billion pesos.
May I make a clarification, Your Honor? That 7 billion, that covers the entire of Tadeco. In Tadeco, we operate 9,300 hectares, not just the JVA area, ma'am. May I make another clarification, ma'am?
Yes, please.
With respect to what we pay the BuCor, there are four inflow streams from the JVA.
No, let
into-
us first take first things first. If the $150 million referred to the entire area that Tadeco is utilizing, then how much would be the total gross revenues that Tadeco earned from the, is it 3,000 or how many hectares? More or less 5,000 hectares that Tadeco currently is in some form of contract, whether this is a lease or a joint venture, but is in some form of agreement.
Yes, ma'am. The total gross area under the JVA, as you know, is 5,308 hectares. And the other areas, what we call our total corporate area, is
How much-
3,978 hectares.
How much would be the total gross revenues that Tadeco earned for 2016, specifically for the area that we are talking about?
If we would prorate it to the areas where the JVA areas is 57% and the corporate area is 43%, that would break up the total gross revenue to 4.1 billion for the JVA area, and all our other corporate areas at 3.1 billion.
All right, so just to make things very clear, for the area that Tadeco is now in some form of agreement with BuCor, the total gross revenues for the year 2016 was 4.1 billion pesos.
That is correct, ma'am.
And the total revenues that BuCor was able to earn from that area was 47 million.
If I make a clarification there, ma'am, there are four inflow streams from the JVA into BuCor. That is correct. The first two were mentioned, One is the guaranteed production share of 35.3 million in 2016, and the profit share of 9.5 million in 2016. Likewise, we further pay the other two revenue streams there, or inflow streams there, would be the inmates farm training support, where we paid 5.5 million to BuCor, and the fourth one is the stipend and support program, where we paid BuCor 92.3 million. So the grand total that we paid BuCor in 2016 is 142.7 million pesos, ma'am.
You keep on saying you paid BuCor, you paid BuCor. You paid BuCor 92 million. You paid BuCor, what was the other income stream? A revenue stream?
The inmates farm training support,
Another 5 million.
5.5, yes.
Attorney De Los Santos, if BuCor was paid 92 million and another 5 million for inmates subsistence, farm training, why is this not reflected in the revenues that were supposed to have accrued to BuCor?
Well, for the stipend, I suppose these are for the wages of the PDLs, Your Honor, that are working in the plantations.
So this is not really a stipend,
And,
and this was not paid to BuCor.
No, this is directly to the PDLs working, Your Honor.
So
Now, for
that
the
is
training,
to clarify the statement.
and then,
BuCor did not receive the 5 million.
yes, Your Honor. And for the training support, this is the cost of training of our PDLs working in the area, Your Honor.
So this 92 million was not paid to BuCor either.
Yes, Your Honor.
And
If I may
Yes.
clarify, ma'am, I'm sorry, you're correct, that the stipend and support program of 92 million, we pay that to DAPECOL, not to the BuCor.
to whom?
To the Davao Prison and Penal Farm, the DPPF.
Davao Penal Colony.
And so it is correct to say that insofar as BuCor is concerned, who is after all the owner of this 5,000 hectares of land, we can only speak of 47 million pesos that BuCor actually received. Is that correct? Attorney De Los Santos and the representative from Tadeco.
We paid the total to whether it's the DAPECOL or the Bureau.
Whom did you have an agreement with? DAPECON or BuCor?
It's stipulated there in the joint venture agreement. Who we
No, I
pay
have a
that to.
copy. This
Yes.
is between BuCor and Tadeco.
Yes, and it's between BuCor and Tadeco, and inside that agreement stipulates the payment of these amounts.
Well,
One is to DAPECOL and the
let
other
us
one
not
is to BuCor.
split hairs here. My question is very simple. Is it correct then to say that only 47 million pesos was actually received by BuCor? Attorney De Los Santos.
Confirm, Your Honor. I confirm that 47 million went into the coffers of BuCor.
5 billion pesos never received by BuCor, and these were in fact salaries, stipends, whatever we call it, allowances for those inmates working in the.
To my mind, under the JVA, Your Honor, this is all part of operational expenses, I guess.
That is part of the agreement stipulated in.
BuCor never
provision-
received the 5 million,
DAPECOL.
Yes, Your Honor.
nor the 92 million that allegedly DAPECON received.
Yes, Your Honor, which is for the benefit of the PDLs.
Yes. You know, a lingering question in my mind as regards, 5 million can actually be confirmed because we can see there the signatures of those who received them. But I wonder how the 92 million figure was arrived at, because there are intangibles here like trainings, seminars,
Your Honor,
but let's take that out.
Your Honor, we manifested earlier that we submitted all the receipts, supporting documents for all these payments from 2004 up to 2016. The total payment in 2016 was 142 million. We pay that to the BuCor or its agency, DAPICOL, which is 142 million, and the final disposition of those funds are with the BuCor and DAPICOL, ma'am. But we have submitted to the committee all the documents, all the receipts, and all the supporting documents behind these payments, ma'am.
Be that as it may, we just established that the total gross revenues of Tadeco for the year 2016 alone, for the area under which there is an existing agreement, whether it is a lease contract or a JVA, needs to be established. But this area alone earned in gross revenues for Tadeco 4.1 billion pesos, and as established by actual figures submitted by BuCor, for 2016, BuCor received 47 million pesos. If we do the math, that would be about how much of 4.7 billion?
If I may point out, ma'am,
excuse me, I am still talking. 1.15%. If we speak of actual receipts that BuCor was paid by Tadeco. Now, if we are to be more expansive and still take into consideration the 5 million pesos that was not received by BuCor and the 92 million pesos in trainings, seminars, and other capacity building intangibles, of which I'm sure there can be receipts for, how much would that be added to 47 million? It would still, as claimed by the representative from Tadeco, add up to 142 million. It cannot be 14.2% because our take-off point was 1 billion. Remember, upon admission of the Tadeco representative for 2016 alone, the gross revenues for Tadeco amounted to 4.7 billion. So, how much in terms of percentage would, granted without admitting, that in fact 147 million should be the figure or the reckoning point by which we shall now consider the accrued income of BuCor. 147 million would be 3.46% of the total gross receipts amounting to 4.7 billion. If this is to be a fair contract, I do not see how such a contract could even amount to being equitable, fair, and just, where the owner of the land now receives only 1 point, if we are to talk about the actual receipts, 1.15% of the total revenues that Tadeco earned for 2016 alone. And if we are to expand that further, still, it would only add up to 3.4%. 3.4% of 4.7 billion pesos. May I ask the Secretary of Justice if a contract is grossly, would you say that this, for 2016 alone, would you say that BuCor, or in fact the national government, was grossly disadvantaged in terms of revenues in this particular year alone?
Mr. Chairman, I would say so, Mr. Chairman, because the amount going as parang aid or share of the BuCor is so minuscule compared to the income of the private corporation.
And if a contract is grossly disadvantageous to government, what is the course of action of government, since we as responsible officers or stewards of government need to see to it that government, who after all is of the people, by the people, and for the people, is not grossly disadvantaged?
As I've recommended, Mr. Chairman, I recommended to the BuCor to initiate the proper appropriate action to ask for the nullity or declare the nullity of this contract between BuCor and Tadeco, and for a more expedition of disposition of this case for the President to act for the revocation or cancellation of this contract.
May I ask Attorney De Los Santos if you are now of the position to request for the declaration of nullity of this contract?
As a subordinate bureau under the Department of Justice, Your Honor, and it conformably with the revised opinion rendered by the Honorable Secretary of Justice, which I have affixed my signature, I have to toe the line, Your Honor.
Which is?
As recommended, Your Honor, that I initiate the process of proceeding with the nullification of the contract.
Just to be very clear, you will now request for the revocation or the declaration of nullity of this contract?
As recommended, Your Honor, by the Secretary of Justice, Your Honor, I will.
Have you done this? Not yet.
I just signed the said conformity yesterday, Your Honor. And I noticed, as the Secretary was saying, there was one option, which is for the President to make a declaration, or that I initiate the process of nullification.
Or you initiate the process? You have initiated it.
As recommended, Your Honor.
Yes. He has already submitted the day before. Is that right? Attorney De Los Santos?
The opinion was
You have signed the conformity.
yesterday, Your Honor.
Will that tantamount to your request for the nullification of the contract?
As I was saying earlier, Your Honor, for clarification, I just affixed my signature to the revised opinion, and the said recommendation, the recommendation contains.
As I understand it, the BuCor will follow the recommendations of Secretary Aguirre. Meaning
Your
they
Honor.
will follow what instruction Secretary Aguirre will do about this subject matter.
Yes, Your Honor.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Chairman Nomali.
I'm concerned about that aspect of certain funds going directly to DAPICOL. So, does this mean that this did not go to the general fund or trust fund and was directly paid to DAPICOL, and DAPICOL used this without authorization? Do I get it right? I just want to be clarified on this.
Your Honor, the salaries and wages of the PDLs working in the plantation goes to them. as part of the minimum wage requirement. And for the training support and cost of training, seminars, etc., are being expended for the purpose of to cover expenses of training. So no direct remittance or actual remittance of either 5 or 92 million goes to us as part of our Fund 284. As
May I
correctly
ask
observed-
COA if this is allowed under present regulations on trust funds?
Based on the representation of the ATL, Your Honor.
What is ATL?
Audit team leader of DAPICOL, Your Honor. The salaries and wages of inmate workers is distributed into 75 and 25%. The 75% will go to the inmates working at the Tadeco, and 25 will go to the store. So from the store, the inmates will have a coupon for their needs. And
No,
it will
my
be used-
question is whether this is allowed under existing regulations in the matter of the
Sir.
management of the trust fund.
We haven't confirmed yet, sir, if this fund were recorded in the books of the DAPICOL. So
So again, may we request you to please expand your audit
Yes, sir.
To cover those that did not go through the trust fund and for which no board action that is normally required in the disposition of the fund is required.
we will do, Your Honor.
And then let me just add a few points that I noted. Si Mrs. Sino yun? Yung farmer, yung unang-una?
Gutierrez.
Si
Elsa
Gutierrez.
Gutierrez.
Kanina meron siyang sinabi, 2 million for... Nandiyan pa ba si Mrs. Gutierrez? Ano ba yung 2 million na binayad nyo kung kanino man for a survey? Tama po ba yun? Did I hear you right?
Opo.
Kanino nyo po binayad?
Sa surveyor po.
Sa surveyor. Kayo ang nagpa-survey doon sa area ninyo.
Ano po, utos po yun ng Committee on Agrarian.
Committee on Agrarian. Anyway, siguro paki-elaborate lang po. Inutusan kayo ng agrarian para ano po ang gawin?
Kasi po, yung sinasabi po namin na mayroon pa, pag kinumpute mo kasi yung Davao Penal Colony,
May
marami
natira.
pa. So, ang sabi po ng Bureau of Correction, wala na. So, para po talaga malaman namin kung mayroon pa o wala pa, so ni-request namin na kailangan magkaroon ng ground survey. Tapos hiningaan po ng Committee on Agrarian yung BuCor at saka ang Tadeco ng kanilang technical description, wala po sila maibigay.
Tapos?
So, ginawa yun, ginawa po ang survey.
So, nag-hire po kayo ng surveyor?
Opo.
Private ho ito?
Opo.
Tapos, binayaran nyo po ng 2 million?
Opo.
Ano po yung sinorvey nila?
Yung sinorvey po, yung in-identify, yung regarding doon po sa GVA, yung tinaniman ng saging, kung ilang hektarya po lahat, so yun ang resulta, yung sinabi ko po kanina.
Para maliwanag lang po, yung JBA na sinasabi nyo is part of the 5,300 hectares na sinasakop ng Tadeco. Ganun po ba yun?
Sandali lang po. Dito po nalaman na ito palang joint venture agreement ng Tadeco at saka BuCor. Nakita po dito na, nakasulat po dito na GVE 1 at saka GVE 2. Ito po yung conformity namin, pinirmahan ko po, pinirmahan ng Vice President si Tranquilino Ore, pinirmahan po ni Mr. Padilla, at saka si Engineer Agustin na Bureau of Lands. Tapos si Engineer Willa ng Tadeco at saka Bureau of Lands na si Engineer Kagasan. Nandito po siya. So, ito po ang nakita sa tanim nila ng saging. And itong GVA 1, under Proclamation 341.
Ano ba yung
Ang
341?
GVA ito, yung GVA 1, under Proclamation 341, an area of 414 hectares. Ang GVA ito, mayroon po sila 5,006.4314 hectares. So, dalawa po, GBE 1 at saka GBE 2.
So, tama nga po, yun po ay yun yung sinasakop ng Tadeco po ngayon.
Opo.
Matanong ko lang, bakit wala po tayong Tadeco? Tinanong niyo po ang Tadeco, pumirma po ang Tadeco dyan, sinasabi nila wala silang boundaries, wala silang survey niyan. Tama po ba yon? Wala kayong survey nito? Tadeco, si Mr. Viloria ba? Mr. ano?
Yes, Your Honor. That came about because of their complaint that there was an excess. So that came to the 15th Congress. And then during that time, they were saying that mayroong excess. So to settle the problem, a survey was conducted. Since nobody had the fund, they decided to foot the bill. So when the survey was done, there were representatives from each sector.
Okay.
And all the land holdings were measured. Nasukat na tuloy ko ano yung size ng Women's Correctional, ano yung size ng San yung Bilibid.
Ano po ang lumabas dun sa survey? Tama po.
Oo, wala akong sobra.
Walang sobra.
Meron ho dito, DNR, nakapirma ho sila dahil sila nagpadala ng representative. Meron pong official map na pirmado din niya. Yun po, sa kanila. Meron
So,
silang
tama
official.
po ba yun, Madam? Wala pong nakitang sobra.
Ang ano po dito, yung tinaniman ng saging. Pero kung pag-usapan natin yung lupa ng Dapicol, mayroon pa. Yung tinaniman po ninyo ng bembo. At saka mayroon pa. Ay, yung airstrip ng, di ko alam kung inupahan, bininta ba, ng farming town.
Nasa loob po ba yan ng 5,300 plus hectares? Yung bamboo po, para lang maliwanag.
Yun hong 5,000, ako po, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Yeah, 5,308 ang lumabas sa survey. Doon sa survey na yun yung gross. Meron ng karsada, tulay, mga creeks, at saka aalisin pa natin lahat yung mga ibang essentials. Sinasabi niya, after that, ano daw yung may saging talaga? Siyempre, susukatin pa namin yun. That came out to only 4,600. Yung net na may saging, may planted. Sinasabi niya, may sobra pa daw. Yun na ho, yung total Ando nga yung DNR Tapos
Salamat po. At least naliwanagan. Naliwanagan lang ho.
She signed the papers, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So naliwanagan natin na itong pera na ito ay kayo ang nag-engage ng private surveyor. Binayaran nyo po ng 2 million para gawin po yun. Sige po. So I'm satisfied with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Numali. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Representative Orestes Salon, Representative Tof de Venecia, Representative Carlos Oybareta, and Representative Abdullah Di Mapuro. Mr. Valoria, you are recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I just put further clarification on the financial figures said earlier. It's true that if we divide the revenues and costs following the ratio of the JVA areas and our corporate areas, as we pointed out, the revenue from the JVA area is 4.1 billion pesos in 2016. I'd just like to say that that is gross revenue. Our net income after taxes, or NIAT, was 316 million. if we paid government 142 million, that represents actually 44% of net income after taxes from the JVA area. Thank you very much.
Okay, for the record, for the information of the members, in relation to the request of Representative Harry Roque earlier, we now have in possession the investigation report of the fact-finding task force of the Department of Justice. Any further questions from the members? Because if there are none, we will...
Another point. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You submitted a letter dated, kailan ba ito? Wala eh. Undated letter but received yesterday. This is Tadeco, signed by Attorney Sanga.
Banga, sir. Attorney Banga.
Banga.
Our chief legal officer.
And then you submitted certificates of title and tax declarations of Tadeco, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Ito yung directly owned by Tadeco, totaling pina-compute ko kay COMSEC 52.8931 hectares, no? Plus yung 5,300 more or less that is covered by the JVA, but parang I overheard that you are operating on something like about 9,000 hectares. So ano po yung nature nung difference noong 52.89 plus 5,300 and then yung difference po nun of the 9,000 plus that are being operated on by Tadeco. JVA din po ba yun? And or lease? And lease with whom?
The balance of the area under the corporate side, which is in effect outside the JVA area, is 3,978, as we had said earlier. The bulk of that is leased areas, sir. As you know, we complied, Mr. Florendo and the Florendo family complied. They were the first group to comply with agrarian reform, and so that their lands now are with the agrarian reform beneficiaries. What was retained only was 5 hectares. So the bulk of the leases represents that area. At the same time, we lease from individual landowners, sir. Another big portion of that are the lands that are the airstrip, all the critical operations to support a modern agri-industrial effort, like the box plant, the housing, the offices, packing stations, feedlot, rice mills, the pumping station, the water reservoir, roads.
Nandito yun, ano? Yun
yes,
yung
sir.
sinabi kong A to G, ano? Packing plant, airstrip, pump houses, Tadeco Officer Central, motor pool, DPC box plant, housing compounds, no? So, yun na yun, ano? Plus, yung 5,300, and then yung, I don't know, kung kasama rito yung sinasabi mong retention area of 5 hectares.
Yes, sir.
But again, there is a wide discrepancy between yung 5,300, make it 5,400 versus yung 9,000. So, yun yung gusto lang natin po i-establish. Because kanina, there were discussions about some 3,000 plus hectares which cannot be accounted. Eh. And so, yun yung, these are some of the things that are bugging me, that yun, i-request kong DNR to please establish clearly kung ano po ba yung mga boundaries nito, who are the actual occupants, and what is it planted to for the better guidance of this committee. So, please be guided accordingly. And then, again, I'd like to go by the point of our lawyer from, yung private lawyer natin from Accra, Section 2, Article 12, na this is the basis for yung joint venture agreement, no? And sabi mo nga specifically, this is also allowed under the Constitution. Ito, the exploration, development, and utilization, the state may directly undertake such activities or it may enter into co-production, joint venture, or production sharing agreements with Filipino citizens or corporations or associations, at least 60% of whose capital is owned by such citizens. Such agreement may be for a period not exceeding 25 years, renewable for not more than 25 years, for a total of 50. So the original JVA started in 69, may be renewed for another 25 years. So if you sum it all up, that should expire by 2019. So, but then your contract or your JVA covers until 2029. So parang paki-review nyo yan because we will also put you to task in rationalizing your position on the matter. Yun lang. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chairman Umali? Yes, thank you, Chairman Mike Aguinaldo has already signified his intention that he will have to leave earlier, as early as yesterday. Anyway, Chairman Mike Aguinaldo, you already excused. Representative Tony Bravo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to direct my question to the BuCor. Nung magkaroon po ng joint venture, yung Tadeco at saka BuCor, year back 1969. Tama po ba? Yung unang venture nyo, agreement.
Opo.
And subsequently, marami pong mga amendments at agreement na ginawa.
Opo.
In which 1979, merong kinonsolidate. And sumunod 2003, if I'm not mistaken.
Tama po.
And for every contract that being entered into or consolidate, there were reviews that are being made. Tama po ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
Reviewed by both parties, by Tadeco, BuCor, and the Department of Justice.
Yes, Your Honor.
And ilan pong Secretary of Justice ang dumaan sa kontratang ito?
If I recall, at least 7, Your Honor. 14. Stand corrected, Your Honor.
14 Department of Justice Secretary.
Yes, Your Honor.
At every contract na nababago, dumadaan po sa Department of Justice Secretary.
Opo.
Wala po bang nakita yung ibang mga naunang Department of Justice Secretary na nagsasabing null and void yung kontratang pinasok ng BuCor with Tadeco? Was there any instance that a recommendation is similar to what we are discussing now?
Remarkably, Your Honor, and even congressional hearings were conducted sustaining it.
Meaning, walang ganitong recommendation?
Wala po.
Okay, so saludo po ako sa ating magiting na Secretary of Justice ngayon at nakita yung defect na ito. After 14 Department of Secretaries, Mr. Chairman, for the benefit of the government. Sunod pong tanong, sino po ang may control ng operation sa area as far as joint venture is concerned?
The Tadeco and our personnel in Dapicol.
So it is being co-managed?
Po.
Co-managed? Meaning yung dalawa nag-uusap?
And in addition, we have a joint monitoring committee at the higher management level.
So meaning in every stage of operation, magkasama yung dalawa.
Opo.
Okay. Including pricing.
Hindi po. Business ano na po yun eh. Kami,
So ibig sabihin, mag-joint venture ka ng dalawa, pero pagdating sa pricing, isa lang yung nagdi-dictate. Yun bang ibig sabihin?
the terms po ng pricing tsaka sharing naka-fix po sa JVA. So pagdating po sa provision for PDLs or workers, to include securing them, yun po ang part ng aming Davao Penal Farm.
Di po ba on the course of operation, as it is being co-managed by both parties, nag-uusap kayo until doon sa bilihan ng produkto?
Wala na po. Pagdating po doon
Wala
sa,
na.
we are limited to the provision of PDLs, Your Honor.
At sinasabi nyo, nire-review nyo ito. How often yung contract nyo nire-review nyo, yung operation?
We have a quarterly, based on JVA, Your Honor, there is a quarterly joint monitoring team that could discuss anything to include increase in share, profit sharing, or pricing, Your Honor.
So meaning, 4 times a year nire-review nyo, pero hindi nyo malang nakita na masyado ng disadvantage sa gobyerno, yung kontratang nangyayari.
I just came in December, Your Honor, last year, but I could tell the Honorable Committee, Your Honors, that early January, during our my first attendance with the Joint Monitoring Committee, discussions for possible increase were made of profit sharing.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. Chairman, I'm asking this because as suggested by other member of this committee, that in aid of legislation, we might include this aspect as far as joint venture being entered into by the government to any private or any institution for that matter, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rest my case.
Any further questions from the members of the committee? Please identify yourself.
Arthur Arquio po o Dasay. Kung pahintulutan po ninyo, meron akong PowerPoints dito na magpapakita sa cost and income per hectare of banana operation.
Pagpatuloy po ninyo.
So, kung PowerPoint po natin, gamit tayo ng PowerPoint.
Gaano po katagal yan? How long will it take?
Madali lang siguro po.
Sige. Pakita natin. 10 minutes siguro. Naka-ready na ba ang PowerPoint?
Sorry.
Ano po ba ang ibig sabihin ng dasay?
Hindi, pwede na ako.
Davao Settlers Association Incorporated.
Hindi pa ba na kanina yan? Hindi pa ba na nasabi mo kanina?
Ito po yung comparative doon sa advantage at saka disadvantage ng gobyerno doon sa GVA. Yun po ipapresent ng kasama ko.
Sige, allow mo ninyo, pero kung pwede, mga 10 minutes na lang because we are running overtime already. Pakipresent na po. Yes. Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre, thank you very much. I know that you have an appointment, so you are hereby excused. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Ready na ba ang PowerPoint?
Sige, sige. Dala lang.
Comsec, please provide a speakerphone. Okay, please proceed.
Ito po yung comparative benefits of the Dasay Islay then against the Tadeco BuCor operation po. So ito, extracted ito po sa GBE, no? So nakalagay doon sa GBE, kung merong increase sa 10% per year, 2015 to 2020, yun po yung production share ng GBE na 1.638 centavo per box. Then if we multiply with 3,692 boxes, then multiply again by the total hectareage of 5,308.36. So merong lalabas na 32 million 115.59 na production share. Then sa kabila naman sa baba, 2015-2020 with the 10% increase. So meron tayong rate per box na 0.4905. Then multiplied by 19,000. If we multiply 3,692 boxes per hectare with a total area of 5,308.36, so ang lalabas dyan is 19,597,136 boxes. So if we multiply that one with 0.49, so ang lalabas dyan is na 9,612,395. So dito natin makita ang comparative na ang production share per hectare per year. If we multiply 3,692 boxes multiplied by 1.64 pesos, so roughly per hectare is around 6,050. That is the production share per hectare per year. Then for profit share, if we multiply the total boxes of 3,692 boxes per hectare per year with 0.49 centavo, so the profit share per hectare is 1,811. So a total amount per hectare is around 7,861. If we multiply that one with 5,308.36 hectares, so roughly around 41 million pesos lang sa GBE. Pero dimension around 47. But for Dasay and Islay, we come up with this 20,000 per hectare sa real property tax. Then income tax with 43,252.35. That is 15% of the gross income. Mamaya na natin ipalabas yon. So a total of 63,252.35. If we multiply this one with 5,308, so ang lalabas is roughly 335,766,22.65. So there is a difference of 294 million 37,226. So malaki po ang difference. So paano namin kinompute itong sa Dasay? So tingnan natin sa next na presentation. So in the next presentation, the cost and income per hectare, ang fruit cost po is 441,000. Yon ang fruit cost, meaning labor cost, material cost, overhead cost, repair and maintenance, and chemical. For the packaging material, wala po yon dahil sa buyer cost yon, sila man ang nag-provide ng packaging material. Then we have the cost of palletizing, 7,200. We have the tracking, 18,540. Then the port cost of 15,120. That includes documentation and labor. Then provision of claim, 9,000. held by the buyer just in case kung mayroong quality claim. So overall cost sa FOB port cost is 490,860 per hectare po yun. Then we have the gross sales of 799,202. May tubig ba? Tubig daw. Apoy dito.
Mr. Chairman.
Then,
Yes, Vice Chairman Gabriel Bordado.
Yes, ano po ang point ng ating gentleman from Davao?
gusto ko lang po ipapakita ang cost per hectare regarding operation of banana.
Can you get directly to the point?
So,
ano
ganito
ano
po.
po yun?
So, ang net income talaga sa per hectare is 244,096 pesos. So, kung i-multiply natin yan sa 5,306, so billion po yun. Yun ang income talaga ng banana.
Sa ano yan? Sa isang taon?
Sa isang taon, yes po. Sa isang taon. So just multiply the 245,096 with 5,300. So makita mo yung gaano kalaki ang income ng banana.
Okay, napakita na po yun ni Speaker kanina. So I guess ang punto po ninyo, ang ipapalabas po ninyo, isusummarize ko na lang.
Oo po.
Ipapakita po ninyo na masyadong malaking income ng Tadeco, napakaliit ang bigay share sa Bureau of Corrections. Ganun po ba?
Tama po, tama.
Okay, ganito na lang po. Pakibigay na lang po yung present ninyo sa committee and we have taken note of your point.
Sige po, sige
Let me
po.
put it on record that the Dasay has showed the presentation showing to this body that Tadeco is earning accordingly billions of pesos, and this is the disadvantage to the government kasi nga pinapaportray nila na maliit lang ang bigay sa Bureau of Corrections. Ganun po ba?
Tama po yun.
Okay.
Sige po.
Saan po galing yung source ninyo? Yung data ninyo?
Doon po sa Davao po.
Sa Davao po yan.
Kasi noon, empleyado po ako sa isang corporation doon, so alam ko yung mga expenses.
Okay, taking note na po yun. So please submit your presentation to this committee.
Sige po, thank you
Taking
po.
note na po yung punto ninyo. Any further questions from this committee, from the members?
Mr. Chairman, let me just clarify certain things. The Deputy Speaker, Gwen Garcia, came up with an almost surgical interpolation extracting the percentages, meaning the BuCor got only how much? 1.15. And then later on, the representative coming from Tadeco presented another figure. What was that figure again, Mr. Chairman?
The figure that they presented is 140 million pesos, which is about 14%. Well, hindi natin malum. We have to
Yes, yeah,
do some
precisely.
mathematics pa.
Yeah.
But more or less, those are the
Because
figures.
that was very revealing. What came out of the interpellation made by the Deputy Speaker was really very revealing, that BuCor is only getting this much. And then Tadeco came up with another version that supposedly, based on net income, the percentage will be higher. So, which is which? We have to come up with the real figure now, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, I think that was tackled already. They have the figures here, so that there will be a proper reconciliation of figures. We have requested the BuCor to submit the revenues that they have been receiving every year since 2004 to 2016. We already have the figures from Tadeco. They have already submitted documents. Ang kulang na lang po talaga yung figures ng BuCor. So that there will be a proper reconciliation of figures of this committee. Tony
Mr.
Bravo.
Chairman, may I also request that the presentation made by the DNR be made as hard copy and submit to this committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Comsec, please take note. We will provide hard copy of the presentation of DNR. We also like to request the DNR to submit the soft copy and hard copy. We will produce na lang hard copy and soft copy na lang.
Mr. Chair.
Deputy Speaker.
Go
Chairman
ahead,
O'Malley.
after you.
Okay, we give it to the Deputy Speaker.
I just wanted to manifest that BuCor has in fact already submitted the figures from 2004 to 2017 in terms of the production sharing as well as the... But
That is
not-
I think that is the
that is my
annual
point.
production share.
And the-
Pero yung stipend, yung other revenues, hindi po kasama dyan, hindi po ba?
because
that is
that does
only the
not-
annual production share.
Because this does not accrue to BuCor. The other two, as was very clearly was presented, was that the 5 million goes to the a stipend or allowances or salaries for the inmates that work on the farm. And the 92 million goes to, in fact, does not go to Davao Penal Colony, but is an amount that was spent on trainings and capability building and seminars on the inmates. So they actually just received the production share and the rent.
We will collect actually all data that will be gathered. We have already, I think, sufficient documents, and we will come up with the committee report.
Mr. Chair, Tadeco mentioned the net income after tax of something like about 300 million, if I recall it correctly. Can you please also submit the computations where you derive 300 plus million as your net income to correspond to the computations made by the Deputy Speaker? And on a final point, there was a model effectively presented by Dasai of cost of I would like to request Tadeco to comment on that presentation made because presumably you have different bases for computing cost per hectare, and my beef on this is if this can serve as a good model for replication in some other areas, at least for banana, to the extent that this is constitutional and this is allowable, and this can really give good revenues for government, particularly for the correctional pillar of the justice system, criminal justice system, then I think this is one area where legislation will be very important in terms of sourcing of funds for the modernization of BuCor. So may I also request that you compare notes, and make your own assessment of the presentation of DASAI so that we will have a better appreciation of what really are the costs involved in operations of banana export business. Thank you.
Noted. Congressman Mercado.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. With due respect, a while ago, we heard the chairman said that there will be another hearing for
There
this.
might be. We will have to sit down with the Committee on Justice, and as I've said, if there is, and of course with the sponsor, we will have to evaluate if there is a need to have another hearing.
So, Mr. Chairman, considering that we have another meeting with the Committee on Rules, may I suggest that we adjourn?
Well, we have been waiting. Before we adjourn, this committee would like to thank all the resource persons, especially COA Chairman, Secretary Gire, and do you have a manifestation, Attorney?
Your Honor, be allowed to speak. Since Tadeco is required to comment on the presentation of DASAI, may we request, Your Honor, that we be furnished a copy of the presentation?
Yeah, we will do that. Take note, Comsec, please give a copy of the presentation of DASAI to Tadeco. So once again, thank you, especially also to the family of Florendo family. Thank you for your presence and devoting your time.
Mr. Chairman, move to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned.